Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay, thanks.
Right. Okay, so we have Ed.
We are now streaming live on YouTube, just so everybody's aware.
Okay.
Hello, Cindy. Who are we waiting for? Eric, Brian, Kelly, Lisa, Carl,
Evening.
Ed.
Maureen, can you hear me?
Yes.
I got you.
So we have Eric.
So it's only Mr. Tanis, right? That won't be.
He
joining?
will not be in attendance.
Okay.
Everybody else here? Kelly,
And Kelly?
Carl.
Oh, there
Kelly
she is.
is here.
Kelly's on.
Kelly's here. I think we're all here, so it's 7:32.
Okay. All right, we can get started. Okay, this is the June 18th work session opening statement. The June 18, 2020 work session of the Wyckoff Board of Adjustment is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting appears in our annual schedule of meetings. A copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. A copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News. All newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wyckoff. At least 48 hours prior to this meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. Members of the public are welcome to be present at this meeting. However, in accordance with Section 7A of the Open Public Meetings Act, participation on the part of the public at this meeting will not be entertained. This is the Township of Wyckoff Open Public Meetings Act. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, and as follows, and in consideration of Executive Order Number 103 issued by Governor Murphy on March 9th, 2020, declaring a state of emergency in the state of New Jersey. The Zoning Board of the Township of Wyckoff does hereby notify the public that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, the meeting of the Zoning Board of the Township of Wyckoff scheduled for Thursday, June 18th, 2020 will be conducted virtually through Zoom technology and will be live streamed on the Township of Wyckoff's YouTube channel. The work session is scheduled for 7:30 and the public business meeting will begin at 8 p.m. The measures are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting through Zoom telephone call technology. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to the meeting is posted on the Wyckoff website homepage, www.wyckoff-nj.com, as a news item. All applicants are hereby reminded that your application, if approved, may be subject to the terms, conditions, and payment of the Affordable Housing Development Fee requirements of the Township. Information can be obtained from the Code of the Township of Wyckoff, Chapter 113-8, on the Township's website, www.wyckoff-nj.com. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Ms. Mitchell, roll call, please.
Mr. Tanis, Mr. Kalpagian,
Here.
Mr. Hubert,
Present.
Ms. Riato,
Here.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Here.
Ms. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Conlon,
Here.
Mr. Borst,
Here.
Chairman Fry.
Here. All right, good
Thank
evening,
you.
everyone. Hope everyone is in good health. Welcome to another Zoom meeting. This one is probably going to be a better test than the last one, where we didn't get an opportunity to hear all the applicants in a public session. So there might be some challenges along the way, maybe some speed bumps, but certainly be patient. We'll get through it. We do have 6 applicants that we're going to try to get to tonight. No promises that we're going to get through or to each. However, we'll do our best. We know everyone's anxious to get going on whatever construction they're planning. But also, we want to make sure that we go through everything and do everything right. Mr. Becker will keep us in line and make sure that we stay on the straight and narrow. Thank you for joining us. So I just want to go through a couple of things. And one thing I will announce, I was noticed for one of the applications. So, and I have a conflict with another. So I am going to be recusing myself from 2 of the applications tonight. The 2 will be the Travers application, 165 Greenhaven Road, and the Gata application, 200 Godwin Ave.
No.
So I have spoken to Mr. Borst. He will chair the meeting at that time, and I will somehow sign off. Or just stay off on the side, and I won't be commenting. Okay? So to go through the rest of the agenda, we'll go through the minutes. We have resolutions for payment 20-06. We have a request for extension of approval. And then we have the 6 applications, as I said tonight, which are all technically new. Although we did hear a couple of them. We went through a couple of them at the last meeting, only in the work session. So it looks like they've revised some of their documentation. So we'll be able to go through that. And it looks like they listened to some of the board's comments in the work session. So there's definitely value to having the work session. All right, so we'll start with the old business. Has anyone not had the opportunity to go through, or does anyone have any comments, questions, errors, or omissions? If not, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Is that Mr. Kalpagian? Oh, Mr.
Mr. Hubert.
Hubert, do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
By Rubenacker.
Second by Mr. Rubenacker. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Kalpagian,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riato,
Yes.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes.
Was
Thank
that for both the work session and the,
Both the work and the public, correct.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, resolutions for payment 20-06. Under return of escrow, we have the Han application 51 Midland Ave, $728.75. And Billings application 182 Wayfair Circle, $557.50. And I get a motion to approve resolution 20-06.
So
Motion.
move.
What was that?
Rosa?
Motion by Ms. Riotto, second.
Second, Rubenacker.
Second, Mr. Rubenacker. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Kalpagian,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riotto,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Mr. Rubenacker,
yes,
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, we have a request for an extension of approval. So in your packet, you should have seen a letter to the board, although they address it to the planning board. We won't be offended by that. The letter is from an applicant, 322 Village Place, Block 289, Lot 18. The application was approved at the June 20th, 2019 meeting. And because of, as the letter states, COVID-19, things have been delayed. So I'll just read this quickly. Please consider my request to extend my variance. I had planned on commencing construction this spring, but with the COVID-19 related shutdown, I did not proceed with bids. If you would kindly extend the variance for 1 year, I would appreciate it. If we have a second wave of COVID-19, we may again be delayed, and this would provide some cushion. Many thanks and stay safe. That's from the applicant, Kim Pakanowski Nolan. So the applicant, also, we have in the packet the work session and the resolution for that application. So we certainly would expect some of these things because there are delays in construction when everything was shut down. We don't want to hurt the applicants and the homeowners as they try to deal with getting back in order and trying to get contractors to come out. So I personally do not have an issue with it. If anybody does, please, by all means, speak up. If not, we'll bring it to a quick vote to accept the extension of approval. Anyone have any comments or concerns about it? No, I didn't think so either. Okay.
yeah, none.
Okay. So we'll go through the process. Can I get a motion to approve the request for extension for the Pakanowski Nolan application 322 Village Place, Block 289, Lot 18?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hubert. Second,
I'll second.
Mr. Kalpagian,
Mr. Kalpagian.
Yes.
okay,
Okay.
thank you. Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Kalpagian,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riotto. You're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Rubenacker,
Yes,
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Let's move forward. So we have 6 new applications: 553 Fairmont Road, 630 Mountain Ave, 234 Franklin Ave, 165 Greenhaven Road, 177 Van Houten Ave, 200 Godwin Ave. I see Mr. DeGennaro has joined us. Welcome. How are you?
Good, Carl. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. Good to see you, Mark. Okay. So we'll start with the first one, 553 Fairmont Road. We had some comments last time about, one, what was the necessity for moving the generator. This is a generator relocation right around the corner. It's a corner lot. There's quite a distance away from the road. Doesn't seem to be too many issues, and I don't think the board had too many issues. But I think we might have a couple of questions. So one of the questions was, will there be screening? And in our packets for this month, we had a revised plan that shows they intend to plant 6 3-foot boxwoods, evergreens, around the unit in the proposed location. Mr. DeGennaro, were there any other changes that we're aware of on this application?
No, not that I'm aware of. The original plans that were submitted and reviewed by me in my March 11th report are the ones that are still standing.
Okay. Board members, any comments on this one?
Yeah, I have a comment. I'm just curious, what is the regulations or zoning, whatever? I noticed a window right above the generator, and it looks like the generator is going right against the house. Doesn't it have to be a certain amount of feet from any windows?
Yeah, that's a UCC issue. That would be something that once the permit gets submitted for review, it gets picked up by building, fire, subcode. And they typically follow the manufacturer's recommendation. So every generator has a different offset to combustibles, and that's what we defer to.
Okay,
And presently it's also in the same location from a window. There's two windows on the corner. It's presently in front of one of those 5 feet. It's just going on the other side in front of the other window 5 feet.
Okay. Board, any other questions or comments on the, is it Hebert?
Ebert's fine, yep.
Hebert, okay. Hebert, 553 Fairmont Road.
No, nothing.
Okay,
Fine.
let's move on. Okay, the next application is Turnamian, 630 Mountain Ave. And this is another one. This is corner lot. We did review this a little bit at the last meeting, and we did have a couple of questions, I believe, about what's going on in the back of the house. Because it was showing what looked like the old garage, but then it looked like maybe there was just a window going in. So we wanted to get a little clarification on that. The homeowner looks like they made a revision to the size of the home where they've expanded on the garage side. So it is identified, it's clouded in the drawings. Looks like they're looking to get a couple more feet on their proposed 2-car garage. Mr. DeGenero, were there any other comments that you had on?
Yeah, I issued a revised report on 6/16, just summarizing the changes. Like you touched on, the principal building side yard setback previously submitted was at 30.02 feet, proposed now is at 25.57 feet. The lot coverage increased from a previously proposed 11.29% to 12.09%, both on the existing, both on the lot coverage and the, for principal building and the combined lot coverage. And also the height, I think there might have been a typo. Originally, the proposed height was at 34 feet, but the current proposal is at 31.42 feet. But still a 3-story variance, which I believe on the application, section J, the resubmitted revised version, they did not flag for the number of stories. Also, I'll say that the section J and the plan still have some inconsistencies with regard to orientation of front yard setback. Section J, front yard number 1 and front yard number 2 were inverted. They need to be, front yard number 1 would be Mountain Avenue side, and front yard number 2 would be the Kenneth Place side. Those numbers need to be flipped on the schedule as well as on the plan. The 3rd story needs to be identified as a variance. The zoning table is also incorrect on the plans. The only other thing I'll add is due to the extent of the renovation, we would recommend underground electric if it's possible.
Okay. Board, any comments or questions?
No, I did think about the electric 2 mark, and I saw the poles across the street from their driveway, so they'd have to go through the street as well.
I guess the only other thing we need some clarification on, there is a rear garage door still, and I'm not really sure if that's just going to be used as storage, a shed, or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, I was trying to see if there's a plan for a driveway to go around back. It looks like they did change it from what was a window last time to a full garage door. So we'll get some testimony as to what the intention is with that and if there is going to be driveway. Because one of the advantages to this is they'll be actually removing a lot of asphalt on that site. So that was definitely one of the advantages to the modifications that they're looking to make. So we'll ask that question. Anything else, board? Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, the next application, the Sulo application 234 Franklin Ave, block 263, lot 21. Mr. DeGenero, you want to go over the changes?
Yeah, there was as a result of last month's board work session comments, the applicant resubmitted drawings. I revised my report on 6/16/20. Predominantly, the changes were to architectural features of the structure, the facade changes, and the addition of some windows. Hasn't been any change to the footprint. I will point out again on my revised report, there's a typo in the side yard setback where I indicate that there's a 20-foot enhanced side yard required. That's incorrect. It's a 15-foot side yard standard in the zone, and that applies here because they're not triggering the enhanced. But essentially, the proposed side yard is at 3.1 feet, which is currently existing at 3.1 feet. And the proposed side yard number 2 is at 10.94 feet. We're currently existing at 10.94 feet. Principal building lot coverage proposed is at 14.4. Max permitted in the zone is 15. And 14.4 is also the combined coverage.
Okay.
I believe they also resubmitted an enhanced landscape plan, stamped received June 10th, 2020.
Yeah, June 10, 2020.
Correct.
Yep. So we had a couple of comments. This is a challenging lot, certainly. It's an irregular shaped lot. And I think we were struggling with how can we try to control the 3.1 foot setback side. You don't have a lot of room. That left-hand side is very close to the neighbor on that left-hand side. So we'd ask for a revised landscape plan and also some modifications to roof lines. So it looks like the applicant took the board's comments from last meeting and incorporated them in the revised set. Board, any comments? Anything that you noticed that was not picked up after the last meeting? Nothing? Okay. All right, then we'll move on. The next application is the Travers application, 165 Greenhaven Road, block 331, lot 3. Mr. Borst, I'll turn it over to you as I'm recusing myself from this application if you want to leave the board.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mark, you want to bring us through a little bit and give us some detail on this one?
So 165 Greenhaven Road, block 331, lot 3, located in the R15 zone. It's an existing single-family home in the R15 zone, currently non-conforming due to deficiencies in lot size, depth, front yard setback, and accessory structure setback. The applicant's proposing to expand above the existing screen porch, requiring variances. Existing lot size is 11,907 square feet. where required in the zone is 15,000 square feet. The depth of the lot required is 125, currently existing is 113.5. Existing front yard setback is 28 feet, proposed is 28 feet, where 40 feet is required. The existing side yard setbacks, both 1 and 2 at 23 and 41, remain the same, unchanged, where required is 15 feet. The accessory structure garage existing is at 3-foot rear and 27-foot side, where a minimum of 10 foot each is required. Lot coverage remains the same, 9.2% principal building, 13.3 proposed. And the height of the building is existing at 29 feet, and the proposal is at 27.5 feet. And the application does not qualify for stormwater management review, and property is served by sanitary sewer.
So what it looks like to me is they have an existing screened-in front porch. We're going straight up from that front porch roof and making it from a first floor into a 2-floor section of the home. So the front yard, or the front of the home, is really almost facing the side yard. And then what we're looking at is almost I guess a side yard appearance in the front yard. So board members have any comments?
This is Eric. No, I don't have any comments. Pretty straightforward.
Anyone else?
No,
Yeah, I thought it was pretty straightforward, same
Straightforward.
footprint going up. The only comment I did make is right now they have a lot of overgrown shrubs. We do require a landscape plan, and the landscape plan was not submitted. So maybe we can get a little testimony during the regular session to hear how they're going to handle that. So I will turn it back over to Mr. Fry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vorst. All right, the next application is the Kanzani application, 177 Van Houten Ave, Block 292, Lot 9. Mr. DeGenero, if you would, lead us through that one.
Yeah, just give me a second. So 177 Van Houten Ave, block 292, lot 9, located in the RA 25 zone, single-family home, currently non-conforming due to lot area and frontage. The applicant is proposing an addition and renovation to the existing structure, requiring variance relief. The existing lot area is 16,500 square feet. In a zone that requires a minimum of 25,000 square feet. The frontage existing is 110 feet, where 125 is required in the zone. The depth of the lot complies with a minimum of 150. The front yard setback existing is at 40.3 feet. And the proposal is at 32.3 feet, where a minimum of 40 feet is required. Principal building side yard setback number 1 at 21.8 feet existing, proposed is at 11.1 feet, where a minimum of 25 foot each side is required as a result of the enhanced side yard setback. Side yard number 2 is at 29.6 feet, remains unchanged. Rear yard setback proposed at 46.5 feet, where a minimum of 40 feet is required. The lot coverage existing principal building is at 8.8%. Max permitted is 15, and the proposal is at 16.1%. Maximum combined permitted is 20%, and the proposed combined is at 18.4. Accessory structure lot coverage Existing is at 2.4%, and the proposal is reduced to 2.3%, where a max of 5% is permitted. The height of the existing structure is approximately 22 feet, 1.5 stories. Max permitted is 35 in the zone, 2.5 stories, and the proposed building is 32 feet with 2.5 stories. Property is served by a 4-bedroom septic, and they have satisfied the township stormwater management requirements.
Okay, thank you. So this is an addition to an existing. They're looking to expand the house in a couple different directions, which does trigger now the enhanced side yard setback, which makes it a little more challenging. They're already on the left-hand side, 21.8 feet. And by triggering the enhanced side yard setback, it's 25 feet. And they are proposing to go to 11.1 feet. So I'm sure we'll hear some testimony right now. I believe it's a 1-car garage. They're expanding to a 2-car garage. They have a couple pre-existing nonconformities. The lot is undersized at 16,500 square feet as opposed to in an RA 25 requiring 25,000 square feet. So that is a hardship right off the bat. The front yard setback, it looks like it's a matter of covering to create a portico or covering over the steps. And then that's triggering all the steps to be included into the front yard setback. Whereas when it's open right now, it's not included. So right now they are conforming. So this is kind of unique where some of these are already conforming, and what they're proposing makes it non-conforming. So we'll get some testimony as to why some of these decisions were made, and hear the direction that they are proposing to go. Also, from a mass perspective, they did a wonderful job with the drawings. It's what's proposed is absolutely beautiful, and I personally understand the need for a 2-car garage to try to bring things up, and especially when you have a large family, you're looking for all the storage space you can get. But that 11.1 feet is a challenge. The other one that's now created is the principal building. So the principal building existing is 8.8%. And what's being proposed is now 16.1. So I'd like to get some testimony as to why they could not have achieved the 15% to eliminate one of the variances, since they are triggering new variances in this application. It'd be nice if some other ones were being relieved or not further exacerbated. So I would like to get some testimony on that. Board, any comments on this application?
Again, I just want to hear testimony from the applicant in reference to the thought process around going from 21 to 11, because again, that is a little tight for that side yard.
Understood. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, just one comment. The AC units were not screened. There was a front foundation plan, but no side yards, no planting around the home for that. And then on the front porch, Mark, maybe you could answer this question. I mean, the 40-foot existing now turns into 32. Is the front stoop that 8 feet? Or is that coming out and they're making the front stoop closer to the road?
Well, you have an existing conforming principal at 40, but you're putting a covered porch on. So as soon as you put the covered porch on, now you suddenly have to measure to the front step.
Okay, so the front steps themselves aren't changing. It's just getting a roof on top of it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Board, any other comments? Okay.
Same as Brian on the left side there. Yeah, that's going to be the crux of the discussion. Not only, in the front, as it's 11 feet, but also as you move to the back of the house, still within the side yard setback.
Right. You're referring to the new proposed addition off the back.
Correct.
Right.
Less concerned with the back, obviously, but still up for discussion.
Sure.
As opposed to, why didn't they try to center that I see the septic's in the back, back right of the house, if you're looking at it from the road. So just want some testimony as to why, what was the thought process of not centering the structure in the backyard?
Sure. Okay. Board, any other comments? Okay. Now let's move on to the last one. The last application, and again, we're going to try to get through these as best we can. We do have some of the applicants' professionals with us, so it will take a little time to go through it, but we'll try to move along. The last application is the GATA application 200 Godwin Ave, block 226, lot 21. Again, Ms. Mitchell, for the record, I'll be recusing myself from this application. Mr. Borst, if you would, please lead the board.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. DeGennaro, do you want to just walk us through a little bit on this one?
So this is 200 Godwin Ave. I've issued a revised report on 6/5, or last revised 6/5/20. The existing single-family home is located in the R15 zone, currently non-conforming due to deficiencies in lot size, frontage, side yard setback, and accessory structure setback. The applicant's proposing to expand and renovate the existing structure by adding a second floor requiring variances. The existing lot size is 11,353 square feet in a zone that requires a minimum of 15,000 square feet. The frontage existing is at 68.67 feet, where a minimum of 100 feet is required. The depth is compliant where it exceeds 125. The front yard setback is existing at 41.2 feet, where a minimum of 40 feet is required, and that is also conforming. Existing side yard setback number 1 is at 20.1 feet, remains unchanged at 20.1 feet. And existing side yard number 2 is at 6.6 feet, proposed to remain unchanged at 6.6 feet, where a minimum of 15 feet is required in the zone. The accessory structures are a detached garage of 387 square feet with a rear yard setback of 45.6 feet, which exceeds the minimum requirement of 10 feet. However, the side yard is non-compliant at 7.4 feet, where 10 feet is required. Lot coverage numbers, everything stays the same. There's no increase in footprint. The existing principal building remains at 8.6. The accessory structure remains at 3.4, and the combined remains at 12. The existing height of the structure is 15 feet 3 inches. They're proposing 24 feet 8 inches. And the application does not require a stormwater management plan review. The property is served by municipal sewer. Also, once again, I would like to see, if possible, the underground electric, if it could be accommodated. I would also just point out a question I'd like to get testimony on from the applicant or the applicant's professional as to whether the covered patio was included in the principal building footprint. Wasn't clear. That's it.
Okay, thank you. So this one again is, it looks like we're taking the existing footprint of the house, going straight up. The bump out in the rear of the home is staying at as a first floor only area. That small little, I don't know if you look at it, it's on the, I'm in the backyard facing the house, it'll be toward the left side of the house. That stays as 1 story, but the main principal four walls of the home go straight up for a second floor addition. Covered patio stays as is. Looks like the front door stays as is, and then the garage stays as is. So any comments on the overall design, layout? Anyone?
Mark, I just want to make sure that we're all working off the same set of plans. Last revised 6/5/20. titled Formal Submission to the Zoning Department.
That's what I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have comments they want to share?
It's fairly simple, Mr. Chairman. Sometimes this one is like, much like the last case. You look at the plans and you kind of say, oh, how can they do this? But then you go to the site and you kind of see how it fits in, and there's really no other, not a lot of options in going up here.
Yeah.
No, it kind of, if you look at the two bordering houses, are very similar.
Yeah. I guess the only thing that drew attention to myself was the side yard, right-hand side yard. I mean, with that tight setback, I was a little concerned about that. At 6 feet, kind of like what we did with the Franklin Avenue home, changing that roof line a little bit as a possibility was one thought that I had. So I'm just one person, so if everybody else is okay with the way it is, I'm fine with it also. So
I don't disagree. I think the roof line, pitching it a little would help quite a bit. It's
we'll
actually,
get some-
and
so we
then the
can get some-
driveway, right, you have the driveway separating the two houses, so a little, slight architectural change could go a long way.
Mhm. Okay. We can get some testimony. So does anyone else have any comments? Okay, perfect. I will turn it back over to Mr. Fry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Borst. All right, so those are the six. We're a little past 8 o'clock, so I think unless anybody has any other comments for the work session, we can make a motion to close the work session.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
Okay. All right, does anybody need to take a quick recess, or can we roll right into the public session?
I'm good with rolling right in.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's roll.
Let's do it. Okay. Bear with me. I have a couple more things to read. This is the June 18th, 2020 public meeting of the Wyckoff Board of Adjustment is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting appears on our annual schedule of meetings. A copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. A copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News, all newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wyckoff. At least 48 hours prior to this meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. The Open Public Meetings Act. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, and all following, and in consideration of Executive Order Number 103 issued by Governor Murphy on March 9th, 2020, declaring a state of emergency in the state of New Jersey, the zoning board of the Township of Wyckoff does hereby notify the public that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, the meeting of the zoning board of the Township of Wyckoff scheduled for Thursday, June 18th, 2020 will be conducted virtually through Zoom technology, and it will be live streamed on the Township of Wyckoff's YouTube channel. The work session is scheduled for 7:30 and the public business meeting will begin at 8 p.m. These measures are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting through Zoom telephone call in technology. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to the meeting is posted on the Wyckoff website's homepage, www.wyckoff-nj.com, as a news item. We're getting there. All applicants are hereby reminded that your application, if approved, may be subject to the terms, conditions, and payment of the affordable housing development fee requirements of the township. Information can be obtained from the Code of the Township of Wyckoff, Chapter 113-8, on the township's website, www.wyckoff-nj.com. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Ms. Mitchell, roll call, please.
Mr. Kalpagian,
Here.
Mr. Hubert,
Present.
Ms. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Conlon,
Here.
Ms. Riato,
Here.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Here.
Mr. Borst,
Here.
Chairman Fry.
Here. Thank you. All right, if we would please rise for the flag salute. Maureen, do you have a flag to hold up?
I do. Let me just share my screen. Hang on 1 second. Screen share, flag, share.
Perfect. Okay. Mr. Rubenacker, if you would lead us, please,
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the
to the
flag
flag of the United
United
States
States of America.
and to the republic for
Republic
which it stands,
stands.
one nation,
Nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, everyone. And again, good evening. Okay, we did some housekeeping in the work session. We will go through the agenda. There are 6 applicants on the agenda for tonight. Just as a reminder, I will be recusing myself from 2 applications. Mr. Borst will chair those sessions. That will be the Travers application, 165 Greenhaven Road, and then the Gata application, 200 Godwin Ave. Okay, we're going to start with the Hebert application, 553 Fairmont Road, block 279, lot 6, corner lot RA25. That is the generator relocation. So I saw we had them on screen before, right?
If they could unmute and we'll swear them in. Okay.
Thank you.
If you could both raise your right hand, I need to swear you in. You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. Just state your name for the record, spelling your last name.
Paul Hebert, Hebert.
And Cynthia Hebert,
Thank you.
Heert.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
So you heard, I guess at the last meeting, we had a couple of questions. We were curious, one about why the relocation. What is the benefit to it, or what's the detriment now that is causing you to want to go through an application process to move it? And then there's not much you're going to be able to see from the street. I think the board all agreed with that. It's really set back. It isn't something that's going to be an eyesore. But we did want to make some minor changes and just have you add some screening, because if you ever did, or somebody else comes in, they decide to take down that row of hedges right against the roadway, then it would be exposed out into the open. So if you could just enlighten us as to why the move, because we didn't get to ask you that last time we met.
It's right now it's virtually in the middle, close to the
show
middle
you.
of our patio. We can show you. That's why we're sitting outside. But you can see it sitting right on the edge of our patio.
So it's seen from the street anyway.
Yeah, that's the side yard that'll go on anyway. So it really
Just want to move it around the corner.
has the same exposure to the side as it does right now where it is, but it's literally 1 inch from our patio. You can't put really bushes around this,
Can't put bushes around
the
it now.
visible side of it to us, because that's our patio.
Gotcha. Okay. And in your revised proposal, you're proposing to install 6 3-foot boxwoods around it just for some screening,
Yes.
Yep.
which is a very common.
Yeah, we're likely to put a piece of stockade, white stockade fence around it too. So, just,
Excuse me?
we were,
No.
never mind.
Okay.
We're going to put bushes that are green all year long, so it won't be.
Okay. Good answer, because the more that you start to talk, and if you say other things that aren't in this application, then we can obviously ask more questions. So careful what you wish for.
Thank
Okay, board, do we have any other questions on the application 553 Fairmont Road?
I do not.
No questions.
No,
Here.
All right, this one looks like it's gonna be a real challenge. Okay. That being said, if I can, I'll open it up, Ms. Mitchell, to the public. If anyone cares to comment on the Hebert application, 553 Fairmont Road, block 279, lot 6. It's a relocation of a generator. If anyone from the public that called in, please at this time come up to the front and have whatever comments you have.
There are 3 attendees. However, I will allow them to speak in case they're calling. Phone number ending in 2913. Are you calling in regarding this application?
No,
Okay, which application are you calling in about?
so we don't have any objections. We're just calling as a listener for
Okay.
234 Franklin Avenue.
Okay. Brian Saxton? Brian?
I think he's here for another application, Maureen.
I think it's
Okay.
probably the Van Houten application.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
no problem.
Charles? Are you calling in about this application?
Okay. So
Apparently
not
not.
hearing anything from the public, we'll close comments from the public. And I will entertain a motion on the application of 553 Fairmont Road, block 279, lot 6.
I'll make a motion to accept 553 Fairmont Road, block 279, lot 6, as proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Borst. Second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Rubenacker. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Kalpagian?
Yes,
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Ms. Riato? Ms. Riato?
Yes.
Oh,
Mr. Hubert?
yes,
Mr. Rubenacker?
yes.
Mr. Borst? Chairman
Yes.
Fry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? We're good to go?
You're good to go.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Stay healthy.
Thank you. You too.
Good night.
Thank you.
No, that's
Okay, next up is the Turnamian application, 630 Mountain Ave, block 391, lot 29. Harold, you're still muted.
Good morning, good morning. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, Harold P. Cook here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Termanian.
Okay, Mr. Cook, we still have Mr. Becker?
I'm still here.
Okay, all right, perfect. All right, Mr. Cook, so we did have some discussion on this. We see the board received a new package with some modifications. I think we had a good handle on the last one. You heard some of the comments from the work session.
That
Why
I
don't
did.
you kind of walk us through what you have going on and what
Yeah.
you're proposing?
In fact, I have Mr. Brown with me. So if it would please the board, we'll swear him in. I'll just briefly outline the application, and then I can have Mr. Brown address the revisions and the concerns that the board had.
Sure.
Okay.
Well,
I'll
Mr.
swear,
Chairman.
Mr. Brown. If you can raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony we'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Again,
Yes.
just state your name and your professional address for the record.
Yes, it's William Brown, William G. Brown Architects, 241 Madison Avenue, Wyckoff, New Jersey.
Chairman, I know he's been before this board many times. I leave that to you if you want to hear any more credentials.
His credentials are certainly acceptable to this board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, this application is both a C1 hardship and a C2 variance. The hardship being that it is a slightly undersized lot. The deficiency of 89 square feet is pre-existing, and it is a corner lot with 2 front yards. I heard the comments regarding the door in the back. I did notice for 3 stories. There will be a door that will remain. There's an existing door. It will be relocated. Mr. Brown will address it. So there would be a request for 3 stories, and I did notice for the 3 stories. So that being said, Mr. Brown, would you describe the plan and outline the revisions you made since the last plan?
Yes. The main revisions since the last plan was increasing the size of the garage, which changed the building coverage and the impervious coverage, but we're still well within the maximum. The garage is on the left side of the home, and it meets the enhanced setback requirements, and it's a 2-car front-loading garage, but now with some more space for storage and kids' toys and other items.
Could you address the door in the rear?
Yes, there's an existing man door in the rear and 2 garage doors. We propose to keep one garage door, the one that is to the left of the door, the new proposed door. The reason for relocating the door to a larger door is for the kids to come out into the backyard and play. They're used to using the basement. It's a large backyard. So they're used to having a door there. There was a big garage door that we eliminated because, of course, we added a new garage and took up all that pavement to the rear, and there was no need for 2 garage doors sitting out there in the backyard. So aesthetically, we were going to close that wall up anyway, so we put a door there. We closed up the single man door, but still gave the kids access to the backyard like they're used to, and also for safety. Families used to having a door out of the basement, which is a very good thing to have sometimes. So there's another exit out of the basement.
Mr. Brown, could you describe the rear yard? And if you could advise the board if there's any impact on any neighbors to the rear resulting from this third door, door on the first
The
level.
required lot depth on this lot is 150 feet. The lot depth on this lot is 170. So even though it's and we're talking about an undersized lot by 89 feet. So it has a deeper backyard than usual, and it's still, in essence, is a conforming lot. So as you can see from my site plan, from the proposed, where we're talking about the existing wall, where the door from the basement exit, where the double garage door is now, it is 91.42 feet on my plan. So with a landscape backyard, 91 feet from a door, it's not going to impact the neighbors at all, and they're used to seeing that now. And it is a 2.5-story structure the way it is because there is a second floor on the building now. It just houses 1 bedroom and a staircase up. So in that respect, I know because the man door in Wyckoff, it lists us as a 3-story instead of a 2.5-story building.
Mr. Brown, would you describe this revised plan as aesthetically more pleasing?
what exists there today. Yes, I would.
Okay, and would that also be a benefit for a C2 variance? Yeah, the benefit to the aesthetic would outweigh the detriments for the variance?
Yes, it would. The other small issues, as you can see, as the board knows, I like big front porches. We have a large front porch that we're adding to the building. It still meets the setback requirements. The issue with the lot is it's skewed. It's not a square lot. So as the board can see, the front porch that we're proposing meets the both front yard setback requirements. And then because of Kenneth Place, it takes this crazy angle across part of the house. We propose to keep the one-story structure to the right that fits in with the style of the house we're designing, and then not to have some crazy angled second floor there. We took the Dutch gambrel across and down, so the front and back of it is lower than the middle, and that's what gives us that wedge-shaped triangle from front to back, where the second floor is over the side yard, the front yard setback on Kenneth Place.
You just couldn't work with the angle that follows Kenneth Place, huh? With that setback?
No. Maybe if it was I'm not doing many modern houses in town right now. Maybe if it was something contemporary.
Yeah. So I think from the last meeting, it looks like the applicants made every effort to not exacerbate that problem. And you're keeping the existing office pretty much intact as it shows, right?
Yes, I mean, we're doing new architectural roof, new hardy siding, stone base, classic Dutch colonial accents. And that'll fit in, perfectly with the style we're designing, just it'll be updated and enhanced.
Okay. So in that front right corner, the front right corner of that porch is actually conforming.
Yes.
But because of the way the house sits and the road sits in relation to the house, the front yard setback tapers across. So really, you could argue the front of the house is conforming, but due to the irregular shape and the setback as it gets closer and closer into the property, inboard on the property, you didn't want to follow that line, and I don't think I blame you. So I don't think the board had too many issues with that. We'll see if they have any comments in a bit. So the other changes, and the other comments, the third floor, yes, it triggers a variance. In some applications, it does work. We do struggle with it at times. But when there is a steep slope, I grew up on William Way, down at the bottom of that hill. So I understand that steep hill. That was my paper route growing up. So sometimes when you have the slope of the property, you can't have the third floor, and it actually does make sense. And I also view it from a safety standpoint. It's another way of egress that helps all parties. So I don't believe the board had any comments, negative comments on that at the last meeting either. So the couple of things did surprise me. One, we wanted just clarification that that storage room was going to be a storage room and you were just going to add a window to it. And then all of a sudden it shows up with a garage door. And then the garage itself, you've added maybe 5 feet or so to that left-hand side. So you've made some changes to try to increase some square footage within the garage.
Yes.
So just to get some testimony on it, since it is going to be a garage door, which personally, I don't think I have a very big issue with. It's set very far back from the property, so it probably won't be an issue. I'd have to take a look to see if there's any screening proposed from between that and the neighbor to the left. But you are not intending to have any stone or asphalt wrapping around the house to access that, correct?
No, we're not.
Okay.
It's purely for storage of backyard toys, gardening equipment, things like that, and it exists there today. So we'll put a nicer door on it,
Okay. And even though you've increased the garage further to that left-hand side yard setback, and we'll get to some of the comments, Mr. DeGenero had a couple of comments, if I remember correctly, that he wanted just to get clarification on. as far as what's the front exposure, number one, front yard one versus two, just so we can clean up this application a little bit.
Okay.
But
well,
you're still,
Mr. Chairman, you're talking about the bump with the oval that we extended the new garage on to the left where the oval window is, where it's approximately 5 by 20 in storage area.
that's correct.
It's not part of the garage bay. It's a storage area so that when you open the car door, there's area to the left to have bikes and things like that.
Okay. And it's still conforming on that left-hand side. You're
Yes.
outside that setback.
Yes, you can see the on the A3, page A3, you'll see we put the enhanced setback line 25 feet, and it runs again at another angle to the house, but we made sure it was within the setback.
Okay. All right, so your variance is undersized in the grand scheme of things. From what we come across quite often, not many people would call this an undersized lot. This one happens to be undersized by 89 feet, 89 square feet at 24,911. So that's one of your variances. Then just to clean this up, existing front yard setback, Mr. DeGennaro, did you say the front yard was mountain, number one, and number two was Kenneth?
Number one should be Mountain, and number two should be Kenneth. Yes, he's got them flipped.
Right, so Mr. Chairman, the 4670 and the 40.11 that's labeled in number 2 should be the number 1, and then the 23.21 and the proposed 33.93 should be the number 2. So they just were inverted.
Yeah, it should be 4470 and 40.11 on setback number 1. And 2321 and 3393 on setback number 2, front yard number 2.
So you're referring to A0 zoning
Yes.
review.
A0, but we're looking at the section J is where it's
Section J
located.
and A0, yes.
Okay.
On my plan, I do have the dimensions mountain, as the 44.7 and the 40.1 and the Kenneth Place as the.
Not on the drawings, you don't.
Well.
You have front yard setback number 1. If you look at principal building on your
On the
zoning
yes, I'm sorry,
table.
physical drawing that shows the front of the house, not on the zoning chart, right?
Yeah.
If you're talking about on the zoning chart.
Yeah, no, the dimensions on the site plan are correct. It's just
Yeah.
a matter of your labeling of the orientation is incorrect.
Yes. 1 should be 2 and 2 should be 1.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And then you also need to add the yes as for a variance for third story in your table and on section J.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant will move to amend the application accordingly.
Okay. So it's the undersized lot, and then it's existing side yard setback number 2, Kenneth Place. That currently is 23.21, proposes 33.93. So 33.93 is to the second floor, the addition part of what you're doing.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Just for clarification. And then the height, 31.42, 3-story, that's your third variance needed. You're okay in existing principle and proposed lot coverage and impervious coverage. Okay. All right, board members, any questions?
Just a couple quick questions. Are we going to swear in the applicant, or are we just going to have the architect for now?
It was just my intention to have the architect, unless you want to hear from the applicant.
No, maybe you could answer my questions, Mr. Cook. I know the Turnamians are a longtime Sycamac family. Is this a owner-occupied house, and
Yes.
do they plan on living in the house after the construction?
Yes, they do. This is for their family.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Carl, I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you,
Just have
Mr.
a
Burnett.
quick question.
Yes.
Mr. Brent, on A2, you denoted the color and type of siding was to be determined by the owner. Have they decided, can we get something on record as far as
White hardy plank.
white hardy plank?
It's gonna be white hardy plank.
And Mr. Brown, did you do any research about underground utilities?
No, I did not, but my understanding is that, the pole is on the far side of Mountain, I think.
Okay, so as Mr. DeGenero said, we always try to encourage it. Some of the utilities will give you a hard time if it is on the opposite side. There is another expense to it. Sometimes it's setting another pole so they can get across the street, which isn't necessarily aesthetically pleasing either, and doesn't really help the cause. But certainly if there is an opportunity to put everything underground, we would like to have you do that.
We'll look into all the possibilities and see if economically they're feasible. I mean, the gas and the sewer, everything else is underground.
And that would be an issue. So I would just like, if the pole is on the applicant's property side, then you will move forward with an underground electrical service.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to be a party pooper, but I'm just noticing that the proposed patio is within the 40-yard setback in the back on Kenneth. Now, I know that's one of the variances that they're applying for. However, we don't have architecturals on that patio. Would the applicant now have to come back if and when they want to construct with the final or build the architecturals for that final patio? Being that, we don't know if it's at grade, we don't know if it's elevated, we don't know what the roof line, we don't even know if it's covered or not. Just for, I guess that would be a question to either the applicant and or to Mr. DeGenero.
Mr. Rubenacker, it's my understanding that patio is at grade. So I don't think it would trigger a variance. If it did, obviously they'd have to come back, but it wasn't their intention to raise the patio. It would be at grade. It was a paver patio.
Okay, very good.
And as far as its location, because it's behind the plane of the right side of the house, we wouldn't really consider that an encroachment into the front yard. Unless, of course, it was a structure.
No, it's a on-grade patio. It's just, there's gonna be a wall on the left side because as the grade slopes from right to left.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Good observation. Anyone else? Comments? I didn't mean to speak on the board's behalf. My recollection from last meeting, the right-hand side, it sounded like we were okay with, even though it is encroaching, but due to the angle that Kenneth Place takes, it's kind of a hardship, and they're looking to just build directly above. And then also the third story, having a man door down on that at grade, creating a third story, I don't believe we had an issue with either. But certainly if anyone does have an issue, please speak up. All right, so we have clarification. It's going to be a storage, but they are proposing a full garage. They've expanded the garage. The existing two-story as proposed, they've expanded that, but it is not encroaching in that left side yard setback. No other changes to the front of the structure. The patio is an at-grade patio, so that does not apply as a variance falling into the front yard setback. And you have provided testimony that you do not intend to install any asphalt or driveway around the house to access that rear garage.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, why don't we open it up to the public? If anyone from the public would care to comment on the Turnamian application, 630 Mountain Ave. Now's the time to do so. So Ms. Mitchell, I see we have 3 people that are on the line.
Yes. There are 3 attendees, but if they wanted to speak, they could unmute themselves, I believe, and speak. So,
Okay.
or they could raise their hand.
Okay. Going once, going twice. All right, we'll close comments from the public on the Turnamian application. 630 Mountain Ave, block 391, lot 29. Okay, Mr. Cook, is there anything else that you want to provide information-wise to the board?
No, Mr. Chairman, we'll rest.
Okay, thank you. All right, board, any other comments on the Turnamian application?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Borst, did you have a chance to review the application for landscaping? I forget the name of the company that submitted it, but I looked at it briefly. It looked very adequate, but I wanted to just give you a chance to comment on it.
Yeah, I think it's perfect.
Okay, very good.
No issues, Mr. Borst?
No, none.
Great, thank you. Okay. All right, that being said, I think we can bring this to a vote. That being said, I will entertain a motion for the Turnamian application, 630 Mountain Ave.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve 630 Mountain Ave, block 391, lot 29, as submitted with the noted corrections on the section J by Mr. DeGenero prior.
Okay, thank you.
I'll,
Mr. Calhoun. Second,
I'll second it.
second, Mr. Borst. Ms.
Can we
Mitchell?
get the patio at grade and the white hardy plank on the record?
Sure.
I'll make sure it's
Okay.
part of the resolution as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker.
Patio at grade. And I'm sorry,
White hardy plank siding.
white hardy blank. Mr. Kalpagian,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riato,
Yes.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Yes,
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Stay
Good
safe.
luck with construction.
take care. Thank you, Harold.
Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell, we should probably think about after these meetings, everyone will have a paper copy, maybe keeping them for those that are approved.
Yes,
We might want to just be able to get them back so they aren't printing out more copies.
I was going to bring that up at the end of the meeting. I need you to hold on to any of the plans that are approved because I have a few extras on some, but I don't have enough for the building department. So at some point, I'm going to have to retrieve the plans from people. You know, we'll make a plan, but please don't discard the plans.
We're gonna make a plan for the plans.
Yes, we're going to make a plan for the plans, wise guy.
I like it. Okay, very good. So board members, just keep the plans in good shape so we can get them returned, cut back on the amount of copies and help the applicant out. Okay, next application is the Sulo application, 234 Franklin Ave, block 263, lot 21. Is that Mr. Sulo I see?
Yes, it is.
Good evening, how are you?
So let me swear you in. So if you would raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could just state again your name for the record, spelling your last name.
Sokol Sulo, Sulo.
Thank you very much.
Okay, why don't you go through the changes that you made, and then the variance. Do you have anybody else that's with you that'll present?
No, it's just me. My wife is just in the other room.
Okay. All right, so you listened to or watched the previous meeting, so you heard some of the board's comments.
I did.
Why
Yeah.
don't you talk to that a little bit as to the changes that you made?
Well, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to actually listen to those comments so that I could make some preemptive changes for you guys. So that's what I did. I listened. I know you guys had some concerns, and I reached out to my architect and we came up with a game plan. I also did a landscaping plan. I did it myself, so I know my skills aren't the best, but I tried. But yeah, we did change up the roof line. We did introduce a few more windows on the sides of the house. We did enhance a little bit the front facade of the house, so you guys can see some stone veneer over there. And with regards to the setbacks, I mean, unfortunately, I knew we were buying a house that's a pie shaped, or a property that is pie shaped. I knew there were going to be constraints with this property, but you know, for me and my wife, it was a good opportunity because we're right across the street from Lincoln Elementary School, and obviously we want to have kids and, you know, live in this area for a very long time. That's part of the reason why we selected this house. So we were willing to work through some of the challenges.
All right, so obviously the major sticking point to this one is that back left-hand side. So at 3.5 feet, and unfortunately in this location, the house to the left is also rather close to that right-hand side. So there's not a lot of breathing room. So that's why we had asked, you have to try to get some daylight on that side. And then I think we had a question about the closet. Did we have a question about that closet on the left? It's a closet that bumps out on the left side, correct?
That's correct. That is a closet. It serves as a closet for the first floor bedroom. I'm planning on making this first floor bedroom as an in-law suite for when relatives visit, you know, mother-in-law, my mother, parents. So I'd like to keep it, I'd like to keep the closet. That's why we didn't have any plans on extending it to the second floor. That's why we left it as is.
So how many bedrooms will this have at the end of the day? 4?
The house is going to be a 4-bedroom house. Yeah. Currently, we have 2 bedrooms on the second floor, which I believe you noted. It must be fun going up and down those stairs. And it's not actually. We don't do anything up there except maybe my wife just keeps a collection of shoes up on the second floor, and that's it.
So I'm just going to compare the two from last time. On that left-hand side, did you change that roof line?
Yes. Change the roof line on the left and the right-hand side. It was an A-frame roof going all the way across, so we just added some gables here just to break it up. And I think you guys were also concerned with elevations, so we did make better clarification on the elevations on the side. I think at one point somebody had thought that the roof was about 11 feet tall, and in actuality, it's only about 6 foot 6 inches. So it's just enough room just to put a air conditioning unit up there or a heating unit in the attic.
Gotcha, and you kind of hit that roof off to that left-hand side, which definitely helps because you had a gable before at each end.
Correct, yes.
All right, so I know that was one of the board's biggest concerns, at least if you're not looking at the high peak on that side, but you're seeing a gutter and you don't get the appearance of the roof being right on top of you, it certainly helps things. The challenge I think you had is you want to use that second floor and you're really getting rid of the staircase and getting rid of that whole thing to try to make use of that space and add a new staircase. It looks like, I mean, I'm not thrilled with it, because it's just so close to that property and you're not doing anything else that's going to further encroach with any of the construction, right?
Correct. Yeah, that is correct. This is the only part, and we figured it was okay because of the existing first floor. And to be clear with you guys, you know, I've looped in my neighbors quite a few times regarding this addition, so they're well aware of this, and they're actually thrilled that we are doing this. They have reviewed the plans, and I believe Josh was the one that was on the phone earlier. So I'm sure if he has any objections, I'm sure he'll make them felt. But I've spoken to the neighbor on the right side, which is Josh, and I've spoken to the neighbor on the left side, which is Gary. And, you know, they're both looking forward to this project and obviously enhancing the look of this house, especially Gary. He's been here a very long time, and he said it's probably due for an update. So.
And the material is going to be vinyl siding?
To be honest with you, I know these plans are a little vague, but we are going to do hardy plank siding throughout the house. And we're going to be doing stone veneer on the first floor. On that little section that you see like that.
So hardy plank siding throughout and then stone veneer at the base.
Correct.
All right, board, any comments or questions?
Okay, I don't want to sound silly, but explain to me, so the bump out of the closet on the first floor on the drawing, is that new kind of roof line-in structure that you just kind of made it look a little bit more appealing since it's so close to that side?
I believe that was existing on the previous plans. I don't think we changed the roof line on that little structure.
Okay.
But
the windows up top are, because
Those are-
those were bumped out, but now they're not, they're flat up against the wall.
Yeah, we did add windows right above that, which is, I believe that's the laundry room on the second floor. That's the one window that you're seeing above that bump out. And the back one, I believe that's where it's supposed to be a bathroom. So we have a bathroom in that area.
Okay.
Obviously, the window may be adjusted a little bit just to accommodate, you know, the toilet and the shower, but there's gonna be a window on that side.
So both sides had no windows in the last application.
It honestly, it was an oversight. My intentions were always to put windows in, especially in the bedrooms. You know, the more windows, the better it is. So. And the garage, I don't know why he didn't put it, but the garage has an existing window right now, which obviously we're going to replace with a new window.
Right. So now you're proposing you have two windows on that left-hand side. It looks like the bump out for the closet pretty much stayed the same from the last version.
Correct. Yes. The closet is, I didn't have any intentions of knocking it down or, you know, replacing it. It's in good shape.
Are you proposing any, not that you have a ton of room, on your landscape plan, are you proposing any screening on that side of the house?
On which, on the right side?
On either side?
So if you notice the landscape plan, you know, I already installed over 24 green giant arborvitaes. They were like 6/7. So I already started making some upgrades to the landscaping, even including the driveway. That's something that we did recently. We haven't paved it yet, obviously, because of an anticipation of getting this work done. I don't want to put something new down and damage it. But my intention is obviously to pave it once the work is complete. So, you know, this is an extensive landscape plan that I put together with, obviously with the help of my wife. So, you know, currently all the green giants, about 24 of them exist. All the other stuff are going to be introduced and planted. And in the back of the house, we currently just have a fence up, and we also have that's really it in the back of that. So I have a fence up which I put with mutual understanding with my neighbor Josh and Liz. So.
Board members, I know this one's kind of challenging. Any comments?
Yeah, this one's this is a tough one to. Yeah, you have the undersized lot, so you know it's a hardship. But I struggle with the 3.5 feet on the second floor. When you look at, it's a laundry room, a 10 by 9 walk-in closet, and I forget the size of the bathroom up on that second floor on that left side, 12.5 by almost 12 feet. I think a lot of that could have been, I think there was no intent to minimize that. I get going straight up over the first floor, but I think if there's, and I don't know, architecturally, if it might not look right, but if there's an opportunity or a time when we would need to step in the second floor, this would be it. But this is a tough one. You're talking about almost a third of the second floor is going to be within the setback.
I totally understand that. And again, part of the reason why we did put like the closet, the laundry room and everything on that side of the house is because we didn't want to make it like active living space. It's just space that's there that we use, obviously a few times throughout the day. That's why we didn't plan on putting a bedroom that close to that side of the house. We did that on purpose, to be honest with you, Eric. So we understand that, we understand the constraints that the property has. I mean, overall, it's a 2,300 square foot house. It's a modest house. It's similar size to what I had in Hawthorne, which I lived for 10 plus years in that house. And then out of the blue, decided to sell it because we found this house over here. And, I always wanted to move to Wyckoff. So it was a good opportunity for me and my wife to move in. We're a fairly young couple. So we want to set our roots here and, stick around for a while.
No, and I was in your shoes about 15 years ago. And I get it. The challenge is a lot of these young families buy these undersized lots and then they want to, put up these very large houses. And that's one of the primary struggles of this board that we see month in and month out. We love the fact that these young families come to town, but when does it become the buyer's responsibility to know what constraints they have for future construction when they purchase these undersized lots? So that's a challenge that this board has, month in and month out. So I appreciate it. Love the fact that you're in town and wanted to move to town and want to stay here for a long period of time, but there's a lot of house on a very small lot. And we're very challenged, I think. And me personally, I just it's a beautiful design. I appreciate all the efforts you did and have completed and all the changes you did from last month. But still, we're talking about a massive structure, 3.5 feet off the side yard setback or the side property line. Sorry.
I understand, Eric. I mean, overall, when you look at all the numbers, it's roughly about 300 square feet, that overhang on that side. So it's not a significant amount. And I get it, but again, it's, we really would like to obviously keep it, over the existing structures. So that way the house conforms and also looks appealing from the street. We want to live in a house that's, me and my wife are both in love with. We don't plan on making any modifications once this is done. We plan on just enjoying it. So.
Understood. And I will comment as far as the landscaping. Mr. Sulo does a great job of his existing landscaping and maintenance of the existing property. So I have no doubt that the landscaping that's existing as well as what he proposes, I believe would be well maintained.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
I do appreciate that the applicant had listened to our comments and that, the roof was brought in. I agree with Mr. Rubenacker. It is tight, but I was happy to see that the wall did not go straight up to the peak of the roof, the peak of the home. So I thought that was a nice compromise they did.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Yeah. What I recall, the conversation was to try to either reduce that, get rid of the gable ends, and then it kind of led to the conversation also, there are no windows, there are ways to soften that up. And to Mr. Rubinacker's point, at some point you struggle with, well, some homes maybe are just more starter homes, and then people grow out of them and advance to another home if they're fortunate enough to be able to afford it. What I will say about this piece of property, I don't know that there's much you could do with it outside of what's being proposed, and this is my own opinion, and I'm typically dead set against being so close to the property line. This lot, as being almost the shape of a slice of pizza, you could probably argue that if this lot were not so irregular, and it isn't that it's just undersized, it's just completely irregular. So no matter what you do, you are affected. And it's very obvious when you look at the inner triangle of what is conforming on this lot, meeting the setbacks. You would have a pie-shaped house to get something to fit. The other thing I'll say is the plan as proposed, in my opinion, no offense to what's existing now, is definitely an upgrade to what's existing. So you could say that there is a benefit to the renovation from an aesthetic standpoint, usability standpoint, and kind of conforming. The struggle is definitely having that mass on the left-hand side. And I think that the fact that this is a complete pie-shaped lot, I think if we were to change this design to try to make that second floor conforming, I think you'd have something similar to what you have right now. The mass is on the one side of the house. And I think that would probably create a less aesthetically pleasing proposal, my opinion. Anyone else? You can see this is an interesting one, so please, by all means, if you have comments, please get them on the table.
And again, this is the challenge. It's the shape of the lot and the 3.5 feet. And I'm not sure, to Eric's point and to you, Mr. Chairman, your point, I'm not sure a redesign of this. I mean, and for Mr. Sulo, I mean, in the past, what we've done is try to work with people, and we always do work with people, is to send people back to say, is there a better mousetrap out there to design, to figure out a way for it to work? And many times we find that when applicants do go back and relook at it with their professionals, they come back with a better design. The challenge with this one, I'm not sure you could do that just because of the shape of this property, where the house currently sits. And to the applicant, and again, we always appreciate when we go through our work session and you basically try to listen to what we're saying to give you direction. I'm not sure there's a lot you could do with this. And that's the challenge, you know, that 3.5 feet going up, you know, right on the property there. And as we always say, I mean, it's not, you know, this is a house that you want to live in, raise a family in, the schools are there, you aspire to be in Wyckoff. The challenge is, you know, if you choose to move and sell it, you have a house that's sitting 3.5 feet next to a house that's sitting close to the same property line. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Definitely. Anyone else? All right, we're shy tonight. I think that the more I look at this, I think it's probably an all or nothing. It's either what the applicant's proposing or it's not meant to be. I don't think there's any in between. I think carving out sections of the house to try to make it a little more conforming, it's so far in to the setback that you'd really change the aesthetics of it. And the more you move anything to the back, the more of a problem you create.
I think the one question we have to ask ourselves, will the new structure look better than the existing structure? So, I mean, I think that's just something to contemplate, you know, from an aesthetic standpoint. What do you think? I understand it's going to be bigger. I understand the left side, but I think we have to ask ourselves if it's an improvement or not an improvement.
I mean, being on the main road right there, the circle drive is already just done, you know, wonders in what you can see what they're going to do with their landscaping. So the fact that the setback is already there on the first floor, I mean, I don't, going straight up, they didn't push the window out to be on top of the next door property, but it is super small. It's so tight. But I already love the circle drive, just driving by it on Franklin Ave.
Yeah, so does my wife.
I bet.
I normally tend to agree with Mr. Rubenacker. You know, sometimes there is a buyer beware when you buy a lot and it's tough to expand on and increase. You know, but normally we see people trying to put, you know, 5,000 square feet on a challenge lot. In this case, I know it looks bad. You know, we have a walk-in closet and a laundry room up there. If you carve that out to pull the second floor in further, architecturally, I think it actually is going to look worse. I mean, in this particular instance, because the lot is the way it is, if you say, well, build according to the lot, they come forward where the lot gets wider. And now that you're looking at a front yard setback, so they're too close to the road. If they start to build backwards to get that square footage into the second floor, you start going like a very narrow railroad flat. And again, I think it actually is a detriment to kind of make that second floor conform more than what is. I think every once in a while, when you know, like I said before, when you go look at a property and what else can really be done here? That's just, you know, my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Calpasian. Okay. I don't know. I would be very interested to see if any of the neighbors, you know, looks like we still only have the same three, to see if any of the neighbors on either side have anything to say.
Yeah, I do. I do have something to say. I don't know if you're going to open it to the public.
Hold on one sec. This is someone from the public. So
Yes.
I haven't opened it yet. Let me just go through, see if the board has any other comments, and then I'll open it up to the public. But it's good to see we have some action on the line. That's good. Anything else, board?
I think we all feel pretty much the same, that it's just those 3.5 feet that are kind of, you know, we're stuck with it. The house is definitely gonna look much nicer once you're done. But those 3.5 feet, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I think we as a board have to take into account whether the neighbor's present or not, I don't know. That neighbor to the left, and you know, oh, by the way, it's also the neighbor to the right. We're at 10.9 when 15 is required. Would it look that bad to step the second floor in 2 feet on both sides? You know, you still have that rectangular second floor. I'm not saying push the mass. I'm just saying take the left side in 2 feet and take the right side in 2 feet. It's at this point with these setbacks, I just have a hard time approving this at 3.5 feet on the second floor. It's going to tower over that neighbor on the left, and the neighbor on the right's not that far off either.
Yeah. Well, Eric, like I said, I've spoken to both neighbors, and I believe Josh and Liz are on the phone. You know, they both seem very happy and you know, positive about the way the plan is. And if I do step back, like for example, on the left side of the property, if I do step back, you know, that existing, I think that part of the structure was put in the early 90s, maybe even late 80s. So that was a fairly new addition or at a level when they added even the spiral staircase. So so for me, honestly, it would be a little bit challenging, and also obviously, you know, just it would make the bedroom smaller on the other side of the house too. Those bedrooms are technically pretty small as it is too on the left side.
I agree, Mr. Sulo. Yeah, you're definitely pointing out the obvious. And, you know, like I said, and like the chairman said, you know, I moved into town 15 years ago and bought a starter home, and then 5 years later moved into a larger home, you know, on the other side of town. So it's just, where's the right balance here is what I struggle with.
So wait, Eric, you're saying, I just wanted clarification, 2 feet on either side on the second floor. So like an effort's being made to get closer to the, you know, respect the variance a little better, correct?
Right. And, you know, still give us some open air on that second floor. I'm only talking about second floor. I'm not talking about
Yeah,
first floor.
I understand.
Yeah, the second floor on both sides.
I mean, technically, on the left side, all you're doing is making the laundry room and walk-in closet and master bath a little tighter.
Right.
But on the right side, the bedrooms, you take 2 feet off of there. Bedroom 3 gets tight.
Right. I do agree. But yeah. We're still 4 feet into the setback on the back right corner of the house
Yeah,
at 10-9.
yeah.
And don't get me wrong, this is a vast improvement.
Oh, agreed.
Well, like I stated, guys, in my previous house, I lived for 10 years. So, you know, my intentions are to stay here for a while. I'm not planning, this isn't a starter house for me either. So planning on staying here for a while.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. And in fact, you want to plant roots, and you are close to the school, which is a nice location, challenging on the main road, but the circular driveway will certainly help. So why don't we open it now to the public? I see we have Charles Zisa. I don't know if you are calling in to speak on behalf of the application at 234 Franklin Ave, but I'll open it up to the public if they have any comments.
Good, thank you very much.
Mr. Cisa, can I have you sworn in, please? So if you raise your right hand,
Sure, go ahead.
you swear or affirm the testimony you give or question will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could just state again your name for the record, spelling your last name.
Yeah, my name is Charles Zisa. That's Z like in zebra, ISA. I am the neighbor, one of the neighbors to the right of the subject property. I am a resident of Wyckoff since 1973. And I also have my business practice. I'm an attorney. I have my practice here also in Wyckoff. I am one of the people that represents, yes.
What's your address?
800 Wyckoff Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm within 200 feet. I'm at 62 Shadyside Drive in Wyckoff.
62 Shadyside.
Yeah, and if you look, you'll see that my backyard and Sokol's backyard kind of meet. They're adjacent. Okay, and I certainly have a lot of interest in the well-being of Wyckoff, and I know that the board does too. That if we start immediately with the variances, number one, an undersized lot, number two, a side yard, that's not just minimal variance from the side yard. One is 10 feet will be available, and that's 5 feet less than the ordinance requires. And the other side yard is 3 feet, 3.5, 3.1, whatever it is. I don't have it in front of me now, but it's significantly less of a side yard than what is permitted by the ordinance. I, the combined side yards are also require a variance. And based on what I'm hearing from the board and the discussion, apparently the front yard setback is also in jeopardy or in violation of the ordinance. And you know what? I heard one of the board members say this, and it had so much insight. The lot is deceiving, even when you take into consideration the amount of variances that are required. It's even worse than that, because it is pie shaped. And in fact, when you get to the rear lot line, it's only 20 feet long. So it is almost like a slice of pizza. So that when you violate the side yards, and maybe the house is a 1-story, which is the way this house started. We know it because there was a previous application by the prior owner, the McPartlands. And that application, they very modestly connected a garage to the house to make another bedroom downstairs. And they went up, 1 story. Or was it 1.5? I don't know if it went up 1.5 or 1 story. But the thing that's deceiving about it is when you build up to 2.5 stories, and you also move towards the backyard by another 12 feet, you are now going into an area where the yard gets more narrow. So in other words, the rear yard, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the rear yard present layout is 62 feet, and the proposed layout is going to be 50 feet. Okay, so and you're going into the area where the yard gets more and more narrow as it goes back. I happen to know the people, the neighbor on the left, the one that's most adversely affected by the small side yard. Their house is pretty close to their side yard also, and it's I think it's a 1-story house. Yeah, it is. I think it's a 1-story house, and they are now going to be dwarfed by the left side wall of this 2.5-story house. And when I looked at the architect's drawing, that wall only has 2 windows in it. It really is like a solid wall that you might build on the Mexican border. You know what I mean? And then the other thing is, these variances do require hardship, and I'm not saying this. I don't mean it to hurt Sokol, but to a certain extent, the hardship in this case is self-imposed. The buyer knew full well, number one, that when he was buying the house, this was what the property looked like. Number two, he knew what the house looked like, and number three, there were 2 people that bought the house, Sokol and his wife, and then they moved in, and really nothing has changed. It's not like you can say, well, I had 3 kids and now there's no room in the house. I mean, nothing has really changed since he moved in, which wasn't that long ago. Actually, the only thing that changed for me and my wife was that we're now staring at this 6-foot white plastic fence on our respective border, which is fine. I'll live with that. But so the point of the matter is, the lot deficiencies are almost magnified because of the way the lot narrows as it goes to the back. I did notice that J6 on the application asks for the dwelling area okay, of the, I guess of the proposed and the present dwelling. And there is a tremendous increase in the square footage of the house. And, but that was never filled out in the application. I don't know, does the board need that information? I know that the applicant did testify about the square footage, but it's not in the written application. I don't know. Can anyone on the board indicate, is that required or no?
Generally, sir, as long as we know that the dwelling area is a minimum of 1,100 square feet, it's really not relevant.
Okay. And then oh, and you know what else? And I'm just giving this information to the board before they decides, and maybe as a consideration. I looked at the tax map. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, the tax map is shown, the Township of Wyckoff tax map shows the property as being 95 by 148 by 20 by 147. But for some reason, those aren't the dimensions that I see in the application. I don't know what the actual dimensions are. I'm only looking at the two documents. Obviously, if those dimensions on the tax map were the actual size of the property, then there would be even more overburdening of the property. And that's generally, and as an overview, that's what I really think. I think it's just it's overburdening a small piece of property. It certainly isn't beneficial to the people on the right or the left. Okay, mostly the guy on the left. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest issues. And the size of the house compared to that lot, it's just a mismatch. Oh, and there was one question I had. On the application or the survey, what was drawn, I guess, by the applicant on the survey, it says that there's a relocation of the air conditioning. Was it shown where it's going to be relocated, or is it going to another place? Maybe I could ask the applicant that.
Air conditioner is not being relocated, it's staying where it is.
Oh, it's staying where it is. Okay. Maybe is it moving a little bit more towards the Bilko doors?
It's remaining where it is.
Okay.
It looks like it's right next to the Bilko doors.
It is. That's exactly right. Yeah. But it said something about relocating, and I thought maybe it was going somewhere else on the property. And I guess that I want to just see if there was anything else that maybe would help the board. No, I think that's about it. And I do agree with the comments of the board. I mean that I do a lot of site plan work and variance work and board of adjustment and planning board work when I was a lot younger and didn't mind staying out late at night. But I don't, there's limits to the amount you should build on a lot. And in this case, the lot is small, certainly known to the buyer when he bought it. And I think putting a 2,300 square foot, 2.5 stories up, so close to the side yards is going to be an burdensome addition to the lot. Yeah, I almost hate saying this to the board. I did speak to the which is, this is almost like hearsay, but I did speak to the neighbor to the left. And I'm not faulting Sokol, but I think when the two of them spoke, maybe the board even has a letter from Josh or something like that, but when the two of them.
Mr. Ziza?
Yeah.
Let me just interrupt you. Since we don't have any documentation from that neighbor formally, I'd rather not get into any conversations that may have taken place or may not. I don't want it to have any bearing on the application.
I got you. And that's why I brought it up at the end, because I don't want to be unfair to Sokol. But in any event, those are my comments, and I'll leave the board to their work.
All right, so excellent points. I can tell you've done this maybe once or twice.
Yeah, a few times. Years. Imagine 50 years worth of being a lawyer. It's
50 years worth of knowledge.
Well,
okay. One thing you did point out in all, certainly excellent comments. You make some very valid points. I'm now looking at A1 and comparing it to the Schedule J, and what's identified as the residence property zoning analysis on on A1 shows the width required 100 feet, existing 88. So
what's this? Are you referring to the application?
I'm referring to the revised plans.
Oh. The architect stuff?
Yeah, A1, dated 6/4/20.
A1. Yeah, I don't know which one. A1. Oh, I see it. Here's A2.
Okay, one
All right,
over.
and one over. Wait a minute. I'll get it. I'll be right there with you. I have X1. Wait a minute.
Mr. DeGennaro, do you have the plans?
I do. I'm looking at the plan. I have them on another computer. I'm looking at those plans. Oh, A1. Okay, I got it. Yep, go ahead.
It has the measurements there, yeah, but that's what's different.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what the architect did. He obviously didn't do a survey. Okay, he doesn't say it was. He took that from whatever, I believe, what the applicant gave you in the application. I don't think he did a survey. I don't know. The applicant would know better than me, but I don't think he went out and did a survey. So the only thing I can go by is what the applicant said and what the tax map of Wyckoff says.
Mr. DeGennaro, do you have any input? Do you see what I'm referring to on A1?
Yeah, I do. And I just like to add in before we get too far into discussions that I could probably clear up. I had identified that the right-of-way line, if it's shown on the survey, to Mr. Ziza's point, the architect probably didn't do the survey, but he references the survey that was taken and prepared by Morgan Engineering and Surveying, dated 7/2/18. That survey shows the right-of-way line, and I had a note on my notes that the applicant needs to formally perfect the right-of-way, and that means dedicate the right-of-way to the county, because the property line is actually measured to the front property line is measured to the front center line of the street.
Right.
So that has to be perfected. To your point, Mr. Ziza, in your statement about what the tax map said, I didn't just notice on the survey that the lot area may in fact actually include the portion of the right-of-way which artificially inflates the size of the actual lot. Rough calculations by about 2,500 square feet. The lot size as presented shows a 10,803 square foot lot, or 0.248 acres, bringing it to 2,500 square feet larger than it actually is once you take the right-of-way away. The front yard setbacks, however, shown and drawn in on the plan do dimension to the right-of-way line, which is correct. However, the lot area is actually smaller than what is being, I believe, what is being represented on section J.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, right? Yeah. Yeah. I have nothing further. I just wanted to give some input to the board. It's a tough decision, no question about it. And Mr. Sokol and his wife Sokol and his wife are nice people. We even joined forces to take down a pine tree that was really needed to be taken down before it fell down by itself. And we contributed. We didn't care whose it was. We just wanted to get it away from the houses. But I think the application is just a little bit overdoing it for variances.
Okay. Mr. Ziza, thank you very much for your comments.
Yes, you're very welcome.
Is there anyone else on the line that would speak, care to speak on behalf of the application 234 Franklin Ave? Okay, we'll close public comments, Ms. Mitchell. Okay, board, I think we're getting closer and closer. I'll entertain any final comments. It sounds like we're pretty mixed across the board. Everyone agrees it is a struggle. So at some point, we'll see if we have any other comments that we want to get on the table or questions for Mr. Sulo. And then I'll probably see the direction and then ask Mr. Sulo what direction he wants to go in. You can see the board is challenged with this. Just being 3 feet off the property line is an absolute challenge. And again, I'll go back to my first comment. Maybe some houses are designed, and due to the issues that we have with trying to build something or get a square peg in a round hole, some houses are maybe better off as smaller homes, more of a starter home. And in this case, the one thing that I think you do have in your favor is what you're proposing will probably be more aesthetically pleasing than what's existing. I don't think anybody would argue that. I think the difference is you're going to cut the lawn and you're going to walk around a 3-foot patch of grass possibly, which is extremely tight, and you're looking to build on top of it. So it's a struggle across the board. Board, any other comments so we can maybe move forward with this?
Yeah, I have one comment, Mr. Chairman, which kind of ends in a question. I guess basically bottom line, what this comes down to is, you look at the floor plan of A2 on that second floor. To Mr. Rubenacker's point, is there absolutely, Mr. Sulo, is there absolutely no way? I'm kind of looking at this. Can you go 2 feet on either side? This way, you're still encroaching. You're making an effort to work within the variances that are kind of pinching you back there. But at the same time, architecturally, the visual of it, it's going to be less encroaching upon either neighbor on either side. I think you might have a home run there. But I kind of put that to you. Do you think that's just an impossibility? Because I'm looking at, that top right corner of A2, and I'm saying, it can be worked.
I honestly, we've looked at this. We've actually been working on these plans probably for a year now. And obviously because of COVID, our plans got delayed. Our plan was initially to start working, hopefully we were thinking about maybe June, July. So we have looked at this multiple ways, and honestly, just because of the way the layout is and the amount of space that, we have, again, overall 2,300 square feet for a 1/4 acre lot. I think it's a modest house on a modest property. We understand the property is pie shaped. It is challenging, but again, the size of the house is 2,300 square feet. It's modest. It's honestly, we tried, we have looked at other plans, and it just the house doesn't look appealing. It doesn't have any curb appeal. It loses its charm and character from afar.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so I think we have a couple of options. You've had an opportunity to hear the board's positions on the overall application. You see the board is struggling. You can say, you know what, I want to take a chance. I want to bring it to a vote tonight as submitted. And if it is denied, then you would have to resubmit a whole new application. Or you can choose to sit on it for a bit and see if there's another option you have, listening to the board's comments, that'll help to relieve that issue that seems to be a sticking point for most of the board members. It's a tough position. It really is. And I hope you understand that the board tries to work with every applicant, period. And there are certain things that the board says, yeah, you know what? I'll definitely be able to sleep at night knowing we did everything that we were supposed to do, asking the right questions to see if we could get things to change. And at some point you reach a point where maybe it just can't be done. So I'll leave it up to you, the direction you want to go.
With all due respect, I did listen to your comments and concerns you guys had in the previous meeting. I did take those to heart. I put work in and more time in, and I did make the updates. I provided updated plans, with regards to the notes, with respect to the notes that you guys gave me. I did update the landscaping plan. And again, I take pride in these plans. Me and my wife have been working very closely trying to make this house look like a home for us for a very long time. So I would really love to put this through vote with the understanding that, I did listen to your concerns from the previous meeting, and I did put work into making these plans. And, delaying me another month, another 2 months, it's going to be very difficult because, again, we were already planning on starting in June. We've been saving up for the past year and a half for this project. So for us, it's, we're looking to move forward, So I would like to put it to a vote.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Tonight, I just want to point out that the point of the survey and the right-of-way needing to be perfected. The survey has a note that does include, the area of the lot includes the right-of-way. So if that right-of-way is removed from the lot area actually gets smaller, and the principal building percentage actually increases, causing a variance for the principal building. So I don't know, Mr. Becker, does that cause a problem?
It doesn't cause a problem, but you have a smaller lot, but the real question is you're building the house size on a smaller lot. I mean, it's not a legal problem, but it's a problem as to the vote.
Well, it's an extra variance that wasn't noticed.
Well, he can ask for the variance now because he has the catch-all language is what I'm getting at. I mean, in his notice, he put in there that any and all other variances. So if that's an extra variance, the board can actually grant or deny it, but it's not that it's an issue that we can't go forward on it tonight because it wasn't in the notice, because he has the catch-all language.
Okay. Well, I would just want to make the applicant aware so he makes an informed decision on whether he moves forward with a vote tonight.
I would agree with that.
I'm sorry?
I agree with that because it is an extra variance whether he moves forward or not, but he can.
Right.
But the board can move forward on this, even though it wasn't, because he has to catch
Okay.
all of his notice.
But for the applicant's benefit, I think he needs to clarify the lot area discrepancy, if in fact it's a discrepancy. And perhaps it'd be in his best interest to, I know it's not ideal for him, but he may want to consider Mr. Sulo to carry the application, get your numbers straight, figure out what the actual numbers are, and then maybe think about what the board is talking about. Because if the board votes to deny your application tonight, you're going to have a difficult time coming back with another plan.
Mr. DeGenaro,
And then you got to start over again.
I would agree, and he would need to wait a year before he brings another plan. You're absolutely right. So to get the numbers clarified, that's very good advice.
So, Mark, just to be clear, so even if I get the numbers clarified, will I still be deemed as an undersized lot?
I'm sure you would be. I don't see it being, I don't see it getting any better, but the difference is if you get if the board decides to vote your application tonight and gives you a denial, you're gonna have a hard time coming back to the board for another variance that's not drastically different than what you're looking for. So, I mean, you've waited this long. I don't think another month is gonna hurt you to maybe think about some things that the board talked about. You know, if anything, it's you're wasting a month and as opposed to starting all over again, and then going through the whole expense and notice and all that. So you may want to think about it. I'm just giving you a suggestion.
I understand. I appreciate that. And I guess a more technical question is, so you're just looking for better surveys, a survey of the property. Is that what you're saying? The survey of the property doesn't seem like it's.
Well, the surveyor that you had did the survey. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with his work.
Yeah.
But he mentions in parentheses that your lot area of 0.248 acres or 10,803 square feet includes the right of way, which means there's a 25-foot right of way in front of Franklin Ave, which means part of your property is that area is measured to the center line of Franklin Avenue. And that's not typical when we're dealing with lot areas for zoning board applications. The areas are absent the right-of-way area or minus the right-of-way area. So on rough calculations, your lot area is probably 8,300 square feet as opposed to 10,000 square feet, which puts you at a principal building lot coverage of about 18%. I think you should take the time and clarify that number with your surveyor. Find out if that's in fact what he did to give you an actual lot area. And then while you're getting that information, maybe think about possibilities and options that you could maybe take into consideration some of the concerns of the board and maybe tweak your design a bit rather than starting from scratch, and then possibly, you know, forfeiting your ability to come back to the board for over a year with another plan.
My understanding was if I was denied, I could reapply immediately. I didn't know that I would have to wait a year.
Yeah.
The way the law is, it would have to be a substantially different application.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
just tweak it a little bit would not be substantially different.
Okay. So I guess then I'll do as Mark said. I will reach out to my my surveyors and adjust the survey of the property and see if we could make any changes to the property and be a little bit more conforming to the requirements.
Yeah, and I think the board's given you some direction as to where their struggle is, right? So you could take that and see what compromises you can make with your design of your house. Discuss it with your wife, and maybe there's something you could do to make it more palatable, and then come back next month. And all you're really losing is a month. The other way, you're losing a lot more, I think.
All right. I guess I'll do that. We'll postpone. I guess I'll go back. I'll revisit. I'll make some updates, and then we'll go back. I'll come back with plans next month.
Okay, so you're choosing to carry the application to the next meeting. I
Correct.
think that's probably a wise decision.
Thank you.
I didn't want to steer you in any direction, but I think you can tell by the tone of the board. And we really want you to consider, clean up all your numbers, make sure you have everything set, go through the survey. Please listen to what the board said they're struggling with to help your cause when you come back.
I hear you guys, and I appreciate all the feedback. Again, we're just, we're just trying to make our dream house. I understand the property's small, but we'll figure something out, and I'll come back next month. So
So-
I appreciate your time.
For notice purposes, let me make it clear both to the applicant and anybody who's listening to public. We're carrying the application. If it's a virtual meeting on the same platform, you will not need to renotice because we're announcing it tonight. If we do move to a in-person, you will be required to renotice because your notice is not adequate for that. I just need to make sure the public knows and you know that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sulo.
Thank you, guys.
Great, thank you. Ms. Mitchell, what's the date of the next meeting?
The July meeting is July 16th.
July 16th. Okay.
But
Okay,
so-
Mr. Stulo.
Did we?
Okay.
I'm here. I'm
Oh,
listening.
we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you, Maureen.
All right.
All right, have a good night, guys.
You too.
Right.
Okay. All right, let's move on. I think we all kind of knew that one was going to take a little bit of time. Okay, the next application is the Travers application, 165 Greenhaven Road, Block 331, Lot 3. As I mentioned, Ms. Mitchell, I'll be recusing myself from this application. Mr. Borst will chair for this applicant.
Thank you. Okay, do we have the Travers present? Okay,
Yes.
I guess you can take yourself off mute.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
um,
we're good.
And also, my name is Rocco Orlando. I'm the architect as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Why don't I have everybody who's going to testify be sworn in? So if you could raise your right hands. You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I do.
And if you just state your name, spelling your last name, and for the architect, if you can just give us your professional address and your credentials.
Sure.
Patty Travers. You want it?
Robert Travers, Travers. Rocco Orlando. I'm an architect, live at 316 Allen Place, where I have my office in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Licensed since 1994 in the state of New Jersey, part of the AIA.
And you've testified before other similar boards?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Board?
Thank you. So I think we recognize you as our professional. Who's going to be taking the head tonight?
I will.
Okay. Proceed as you wish.
Thank you. So thank you, board. I appreciate it. This is new to everybody, but I appreciate the efforts here because I know it's a task to put this together. I'd just like to introduce the project itself. So it's a existing 2.5-story dwelling. It's one family resident. It's 165 Greenhaven Road as mentioned. It's in an R15 zone. The property is the home of Patty and Rob Travers. They have 2 children and they've lived in the home for the last 17 years. Currently, there is a porch, a screened-in porch on what is the front yard of the property. It's actually the side yard of the house, the way the house is positioned on the lot. And what we're proposing to do is keep the limits of the existing, the size of the footprint, as well as the footprint of the existing screened-in porch, and we're going to be enclosing that and making that a livable space as part of the first floor. And then we're going to be building on top of it, which is a connection to the existing master bedroom. We are also on the plans, on the elevations, you'll notice that the roof line steps down slightly. The reason for that is because of the screened-in porch now is set back from the building, the main building, which helps to break up the elevation as well. So it's a nice break in the elevation. Adds a little character. What we've also done is enhance the what is the front of the house, but it's really the side yard over the entrance, as well as adding a little roof line on either side of the entry, just to add a little character to the front. The existing house is a vinyl sided house. We love to do hardy siding and add a little stone detail on the base. Depending on the cost of the construction and how it comes, we may go to a higher grade vinyl siding instead. So unfortunately, we're not set on it. It's kind of dependent on the cost here. Keeping with the character of the house is the addition that we're proposing. A little bit about the property itself. Currently, the property is an undersized lot. The lot currently is 11,907 square feet, where the minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet. The side yard setbacks required are 15, and we do comply with that. We have a 23-foot setback currently on one side yard, and the other, which is one of the side yards for the addition, but also the existing screen-in porch is 41 feet, both complying to the existing setback requirements. Lot coverage of the principal building and accessory buildings are in conformance, and no changes are proposed. And what we're doing is really just increasing the floor area of the first and second floor, again, with the same footprint of the screen-in porch that's there now. Impervious coverage max is 45% allowable, and we're proposing it's not changing. It's currently 35.6%. Current lot is irregular in size, especially in the front yard along Greenhaven Road, creating the undue hardship to the applicant, resulting in the needed front yard variance. Let's see. I think I'll leave it at that. I don't know if there's anybody that has any questions. I'd just like to say that the variance that we're seeking, if granted, we feel will substantially be increased to the enhancement of the property, and it will not substantially impair the intent of the proposed Wyckoff zoning ordinance.
So presently, the only variance that you're seeking is the front yard setback. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, because the existing porch is already an existing non-conforming, the way the setback is, and the way that the Greenhaven Road curves in the front is you'll see on the site plan, there's two dimensions. One is to the existing house and one is to the corner of the porch, which is the existing screen-in porch, which is going to be the limits of the proposed addition. So that's where the front yard setback variance is requested.
Okay. Now, I know the garage is non-conforming on the setback also, correct? But that doesn't play into this for notice purposes?
It doesn't, because it's existing. We're not touching that at all.
Okay, perfect. And then, so just so I understand the first floor is going to be like a den area, sitting area. And then the second floor, I see that there is a washer dryer in there. What is that room going to be used for otherwise?
It's going to be a closet, a master bedroom closet, and a laundry room as well.
Okay, great. So pretty straightforward going up. I'll kind of open it up to the board. Anybody from the board want to comment on this and give your opinions?
Mark, this is Eric. No comments. It's pretty straightforward application. I don't have any issues. I think it architecturally fits nice with the existing house as well as with the neighborhood.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
I would agree.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward. I just had, a quick comment. I don't know if you're, if the architect is speaking to the landscape, odds are some of that existing landscape is going to get.
Yeah, there was some comment in the work session, so I'm going to leave it to Patty with a comment on that a little bit. Patty Travers.
Sure.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Oh,
yeah, so we've been on the property for 15, 16 years, and we've always had a professionally landscaped. So obviously after we get the construction done, we would be putting in some new shrubbery, I guess, but it's professionally landscaped, so we'll continue to keep it professionally landscaped. And if there's any comments by the board, we'll certainly address those as well.
My intention is to definitely replace the shrubs around the new area. I know they are overgrown, but I'm not going to do any work until after the construction is complete. Those shrubs will come out and we'll replace.
So usually with the application, we request a landscape plan. So if this application gets approved tonight, I mean, David, how should we, Mr. Becker, how should we handle that?
Well, if you want to see it, you're going to need to either have them come back with a plan, or you can make it subject to the plan. The real question is what they have right now. You're comfortable just that they're going to replace it, with, that's one of the things we've done before, just replace with like kind. It's really a question of whether you really want to see a full-blown plan or not. But if they want to just say replace like kind, we can leave it as part of the approval.
All right. Mr. DeGenero, what are you comfortable with?
I'm okay with having something submitted prior to resolution.
Okay,
Do it that way too.
let's do that.
Who's going to review it and who's going to okay it? That's going to be the question, just so we make sure it's done.
Well, I could do it in conjunction with Mr. DeGenero.
Okay.
Is it possible to submit the plan when building permits are submitted before a permit is released, that the sketch is provided so you can review it at that time?
Well, I think we probably want a little bit sooner than that. That the best time would be, if the application gets approved tonight, it gets memorialized next month.
Okay.
And you would have a month between now and next meeting, and then we could just, have the board have the opportunity of seeing what you submit and having the confidence of approving the resolution at that time. I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay. Mark, would you be okay with the homeowners if they work with their professional landscaper to prepare a sketch to provide to you? Is that adequate?
Yeah, I think all you really need to do is a sketch based on the property survey,
Okay.
quantity, size, species, and location of plants. And
Okay, great.
something simple.
My only recommendation is done somewhat in advance of the resolution, because if it's not acceptable, then we're not going to approve the resolution. So I would get on it right away.
Do you have a date that you want to try to shoot for that you want to?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay.
Because I'm going to ask
Patty-
Mr. DeGenero
Patty,
about a week before whether it's acceptable or not. So
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
we-
fine.
Patty
we
and
can
Bob,
do
we can
something.
put that together?
Yes,
Yes, we
we'll
can
have
do
a plan
something.
done by then.
Okay.
Does Mr. Borst have any recommendations as to type of plants or anything that you want to see, that you want to guide them a little so they can get this off on first shot?
Yeah, I think, as far as it's really personal preference, if we came back with some kind of foundation plant that's going to soften the front foundation, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It looks like you're not doing any
I like
stone
boxwood.
We
Go
might,
ahead.
there might be a little stone veneer that we are putting on the front. So we're going to try to enhance that base a bit so it's not just plain concrete.
Okay. I mean, if you did something like I heard you mention boxwood, if we did some kind of boxwood material, something like that would be fine with us. It doesn't have to be crazy. The one thing that we don't want to see is you coming back with 18-inch shrubs. Let's get something that's going to that 2 foot or plus range.
Yes, it'll be substantial. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I think I'll leave that up to the homeowner, however they would like to handle that. The rest of the yard seemed like it was landscaped, so I'm not too nervous that they're going to come back with something that we don't approve. All right, so anybody else from the board? Anybody else? Questions? If not, I'll turn it over to Ms. Mitchell and see if we have anybody in the audience. You're on mute.
Anyone calling in on this application would like to speak?
Okay. Seeing that there's none, we'll bring it back in. So I guess I'll be entertaining a motion for 165 Greenhaven Road.
I'm sorry, Mark, did you ask for a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, sorry. I'll make a motion to approve 165 Greenhaven Road, Block 331, Lot 3, as submitted with the addition of a landscape plan with species and type to be determined by the homeowner with the height of approximately 2 feet, and to be submitted in conjunction within 2 weeks prior to the resolution being drafted.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Papagian,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riado,
Yes.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Yes.
Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry. Oh, sorry, not Chairman Fry, abstain.
Okay. Great. Congratulations.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Thank
you.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, Mr. Fry, I'll turn it back over.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Morse. Okay, let's move on. So it's 10:06 right now. What we'll do is we'll see where we are at 10:30. We'll have a hard stop at 11 o'clock. This one might take a little bit of time to come through, but just so the applicant knows, 11 o'clock we'll shut it down. Okay? All right. That being said, the next application is the Kanzani application, 177 Van Houten Ave, Block 292, Lot 9. Mr. Whitaker?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bruce Whitaker from the firm of McDonald Whitaker, representing the applicant Robert and Ann Kanzani. They are the owners and occupants of 177 Van Houten Avenue in Wyckoff. It's shown on your tax map as Block 292, Lot number 9. This property is located in the RA-25 Rural Resident District. The applicant is proposing to construct a 1.5-story single-family, a 1.5-story dwelling addition to the 1.5-story single-family dwelling unit that's there now. We're looking to add a second full story, create a small porch over the entryway, and to add a garage, and then to the rear, construct a family room with an outdoor deck. This property, and I heard it through the work session, has some challenges from what we are proposing to do. I believe, however, with the proffer that we'll show you tonight, that we meet the requirements under NJSA 40:55D-70 as a C1 as well as a C2. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the application, and then I have our surveyor, engineer, planner, Kirsten Osterkorn, to testify, as well as Chris Kanzani to testify as to the architectural elements. Looking at this property, we have to first look and see what we have in front of us. We have a property that's deficient in lot area, being only 16,500 square feet, where 25,000 square feet is required. And we have a deficiency in lot width. It's 110 feet in length, where 125 feet is required. So those are the two non-conforming conditions we have. And the area is substantially less than what is required in your zone. By virtue of what the applicant is proposing, we now come into the enhanced side yard setback, which we are all familiar with, in needing 25 feet on each side. What this applicant has done and has worked very hard on with his brother in creating what I think, and I think I heard you say in the work session, is a very aesthetically pleasing and well thought out architectural design, is to create a second garage. I think in today's world, we all recognize that not only are garages important, they are something that is encouraged in any zoning ordinance, as well as the one in Wyckoff. But to realistically have two garages that are able to accommodate motor vehicles And that is what is being proposed here with a second story stepped back a bit over it. With the enhanced side yard setback of 25 feet, at the closest point on that side yard, we will be at 11 feet. But from there, it widens out, and you'll hear the testimony back to 20 feet. So we've got less than what we need as far as width of a lot is concerned. And on the basis of that, we have a home where it is lawfully existing and existing now to work with. We have one garage there now, and obviously it's appropriate if we're putting a second garage in to put it next to that. The second variance that we're looking for is a variance as it pertains to the front yard setback. I would suggest to you that it's a de minimis request. I understand your ordinance. We are conforming now, but for the fact that we want to add not only I think an aesthetically pleasing architectural element by putting a roof over this area and creating what would be referred to as a portico, that I think at the same time what you recognize is that the landing itself is very much the same. The steps are very much the same, but now because the roof is put over it, it now prompts the variance relief we are seeking. We are at 40 feet now, 40.3 feet right now. And based upon the interpretation and definition in your ordinance, we get back to a setback of 32.3. That'll be explained by Ms. Osterkorn as we go through this. But recognize something about the portico. It is a portico. It is not a front porch with rocking chairs. It is a very small area in the front of the building itself. I think when you look at the architectural plans that you have before you, that it is aesthetically pleasing. And most importantly, under the municipal land use law, you recognize that one of the things that's encouraged is a safety element. And it's recognized that putting a small roof over an entryway does provide safety for people entering and exiting the building. The third variance that we are seeking pertains to maximum lot coverage. Based upon, and you'll hear the testimony of where we are placing this building and what we have to work with here in connection with the area of this lot. We are seeking a lot coverage of 16.1%, where 15% overall is what is permitted. But recognize also that we are under the total of 20% with accessory building. The only thing being considered accessory-wise here is the deck, and on the basis of that, instead of being at the 20%, we are at 18.4%. The family room, I know, has been a discussion and concern as to, okay, why is it located in that particular spot? You're going to hear the testimony from our planner as well as our engineer, one of the same person, that with the location of the septic system, by code requirements, this is where the family room would have to be located. I would submit to you, we've submitted pictures, and there was a purpose behind doing it in this particular instance. The photos that were delivered with this application, I think can show you what the house not only looks like now. It's a house kept very well, but a bit dated. And when you look at the side yard setback and you see the plantings that are there, and you see how this house is stepped down lower than the house next door, I think in this instance, that 11-foot setback can be justified based upon not only the topographic conditions, not only by virtue of the fact that it's at its closest point, and then it gets better as we go back, but also you look at the landscape plan that's shown there. We're looking to make that area enhanced with additional landscaping so that that area will basically be buffered off from the house next door. And as you can see from the photographs, the house next door is higher. It is the garage side. So it is not a side where there is a great deal of living activity, bedrooms, etc. It's only 1 story high. And you will see also from those photographs that there's a large, extensive buffer right against that house there. I would submit to you, if I drove down the street and looked at this in its final form, if it were built this way, I don't think you would be looking at it and say, oh my gosh, look at that house. It's only 11 feet off the corner of the garage. And that's because I think the way these topographic conditions are in this particular instance can justify the variance relief being sought. That's an overview of the application. What I would like to do, unless anybody has any questions of me, is have both witnesses sworn. I have Kirsten Osterkorn, who's been previously qualified before your board as a surveyor, engineer, and planner. And then I have Mr. Kanzani, brother of the applicant, to testify as to the architectural elements.
Mr. Whitaker, why don't we mark, unless you have any objection, the whole initial packet is A1, and then they can identify individually those items that they're testifying to.
That's a very good idea. No objection.
Okay. And if the people are going to testify, if they would raise their right hand, swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
And if you can give your names, spelling your last name, and your business address for the professionals.
Kirsten Osterkorn, Kiersten Osterkorn, Omlin and Osterkorn, 22 Madison Heights, Wyckoff.
Mr. Becker, Mr. Chairman, I've had the occasion of qualifying Kirsten as an expert in the fields of surveying, engineering, and planning in the past before your board. So if we just ask the question that nothing has changed in connection with her credentials there, I would ask that she be so qualified for the purposes of expediting that this evening.
Mr. Fry?
The board certainly recognizes Ms. Osterkorn as being qualified. She's been before us several times.
Thank you.
Thank you. And likewise with Mr. Kanzani, he has testified before the board also. And he'll be testifying just to the architectural elements.
Okay.
Sure. Christopher Kanzani from the firm of Kanzani Associates Architects, Rams, New Jersey, 80 East Ridgewood Ave. I have a master's degree in architecture from NJIT in 2009, and currently working towards completing my licensing exams. I've testified before this board multiple times, as well as other boards within the
He meets the qualifications.
Thank you very much. We'll start with Ms. Osterkorn. I'd like you to describe to the board what the existing conditions are of this property.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Good evening, board. Thank you for seeing me again on this awesome Zoom session. As Mr. Whitaker explained, property address is 177 Van Houten, block 292, lot 9. The lot area is 16,500 square feet. We are in an RA25 zone. Topography of the site currently slopes from the front to the rear, which is the south to the north. Existing on the property is a single family dwelling. All of my testimony will be referring to the set of plans that I submitted, sheets 1 and sheet 2. So focusing right now on the zoning chart on sheet 1 and the existing conditions portion of the plan on sheet 2. With respect to the lot area, as explained,
Kirsten, if I
25.
just might interrupt, let's just put down what the revised date is on that plan. So
Oh, 5/28/20.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Thank you. As explained a little bit, the required lot area is 25,000 square feet. Our lot area is 16,500 square feet. We are undersized in that aspect. Also with respect to lot with frontage, 125 feet is required and our existing lot is 110 feet. Speaking to the neighborhood, this section of Van Houten, as well as the neighboring streets of Demarest to the west and Jeffrey Court to the north, we also have Sunset Boulevard, Markham Road, and West Stevens Ave to the south, are all developed to more of today's standards. So speaking to the house, while it is outdated, the proposed renovations are looking to bring it to more of today's standards that will fit in with this portion of the neighborhood in the section of the Knolls. With the proposed renovations and additions to the single family home, the house addition, as explained, and I know it was brought up in the work session as that rear family room area, the house addition was developed considering the constraints of the lot being undersized in area and width, as well as the existing septic system in the rear. So we spent some time initially. We also worked with Mr. DeGennaro. We went out there, we exposed everything to make sure the house was placed and is in a spot that conforms with this, complies with the setbacks of the septic regulations. So that's why that addition is where it is, and it is at that 20-foot setback. So speaking to our setback requirements, I know we have the enhanced side yard, but that rear addition had to be placed where it was because of the existing septics.
when you're approaching the property from the front, whether you're coming from Van Houten or Sunset, that rear addition is not readily discernible. Both are coming down from a hill. And when you're coming down from Van Houten with the current existing arborvitae buffer, the proposed addition is not going to be completely discernible, and especially with the 2-car addition. And similarly, when you're coming down Sunset Boulevard, you can't actually even see where that 2nd-car addition is happening. So as part of this proposed application, we have the rear yard addition, we have the 2-car garage addition, and we have a 2nd story, as well as we have the small portico addition in the front. Now, the existing setback for the portico, or the existing front yard setback, is 40.3 feet to the house. Since the existing stoop is not counted because it's not covered, it wasn't considered in part of the setback, but really to the existing front stairs is actually 34.3 feet. Because we're looking to cover the portico, we have the variance of 32.3 feet. So we just wanted to also explain and clarify a little bit that the proposed variance in the front yard, while it's stated as being an 8-foot variance because of how everything is defined in the ordinance, in reality, when you're talking about the stoop just being reconfigured and in the same place, it's only a 2-foot difference. The fact that it's just that we're covering it and triggers it being counted to the front stoop, but the existing stoop is there, which also encroaches into the front yard.
And am I correct in saying that the encroachment at this point from what is there now is basically the roof itself and columns, but it is an open porch. It's not anything that's enclosure. There's no walls that prompt variance relief.
Correct. Everything is open. And when you look at the portion of this enclosed area over the width of the house, it's only about a little over 11% of the house. And when you look at the whole lot width, it's about 7%. So it's a very small percentage when you're comparing it to the overall. We're not putting a full porch in, we're not increasing into the setback, for a large amount. It's a very small portion. And it which I'll get into the planning testimony, but for safety and everything, I mean, it makes sense, and for the look of the architecture. Speaking to some of the setbacks that we're proposing, because of the way the house is increasing in size, we do trigger the enhanced side yard setback. On the east side of the house is existing as 29.6 feet, and that is remaining the same. On the existing west side of the house, it's 21.8 feet, and the proposed at the closest point, as described by Mr. Whitaker, is 11.1 feet, and then it steps back to the addition at 20 feet. Also, the 2nd floor steps back too, so you're not creating a wall up the side. The architecture was very thoughtful and beautiful of how everything steps and works with the property, that it doesn't look like a massive structure for this type of property. As well as being proposed, we are proposing some drainage to compensate for the increase in coverage. And we have some landscaping proposed along the frontage for some foundation plantings, as well as on the west property line. As explained in some of the pictures, the property is lower than the property to the west. There are 2 small retaining walls and a row of arborvitaes to the property to the west, and we'd be adding another row of trees in to lessen that impact of that side yard setback. I know as the requirement for the landscape plan from our firm, I do have a landscape architect that I work with who I had consulted with, and the plans designed and shown on the plan are from a landscape architect. And as part of the work session, understanding that there were some comments about wanting the AC units and everything to be buffered, we can definitely add anything on the right side of the house, the east side of the house, to buffer and add some more plantings on that side if requested. Going into some of the other bulk requirements, the building coverage, 15% is required, and we're proposing 16.1%, which includes the attached garage. The only additional accessory structure by definition is the deck. There's no sheds or anything else proposed on the property. So the overall building coverage of 20% is met, understanding that it is supposed to be 15 and 5. Given with our non-conforming lot and what we're working with, we do have it on the specific principal building coverage, but we're not exceeding it in the total of 20%. Impervious coverage, 35% is required. We're at 28.2%. We don't trigger any variances there. And as just explained, with the additional increase in coverage, we are supplementing it with drainage So there'll be no impact to the streets or any neighbors. And then rear yard setback 40 feet existing, we're at 46.5, or no, 40 feet, I'm sorry, is required and we're at 46.5, so we don't trigger anything in the rear. That's in summary just the surveying and engineering side of explaining the property. I can go into the planning portion now of justifying everything I just talked about.
And I think that would be an appropriate way, is to give us, from your opinion, as a professional planner, what is the basis and foundation for being able to grant variance relief under the C1 criteria as well as the C2 criteria.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's how I was going to explain it. I was going to say, my testimony will be to explain the 40:55 C1 and C2 variances. With respect to the ordinance, we are conforming with the zoning of the residential neighborhood and enhancing your streetscape and looking at the properties in a whole. And when you are in this area of town in the Knoll section and you drive through the neighborhood, the nice way of saying that the house is outdated, that this architecture is going to enhance the property. It's going to keep with the neighborhood as you come down Sunset. Even when you go past Sunset to, I don't even remember all this, I mean, the name of the other streets over past there, Pace, I think. It's a beautiful neighborhood. And you go down Demorest and you go to Jeffer Court and it's going to be beautiful. And everything about it and the intent of the ordinance of conforming with those main aspects, this is what we're looking to do. We do have the pre-existing nonconformities of lot width and lot area, which is what we're working with. We are working off of an existing structure. We're not knocking down and rebuilding. We're trying to work with what we have and build off of it to work with the community and the setbacks and everything that we have going on. The front yard setback, as I just touched upon earlier, the small 8x5 open door air portico area that's there, they're going to be rebuilding it. The door is in the same place. It's open. And while the front door complies with the setback, we have the small infringement, but it would support and benefit the architectural aspect of the building. When you look at the architectural, you're not having a front face, you're coming out a little bit, you've got a little peak, it looks beautiful, as well as the safety aspect. I gave some numbers earlier of the percentages just to reiterate that it's not a full porch, it's not an impact in the setback over the whole frontage of the property. For the building frontage, it's 11.5%, and for the property frontage, it's 7%. Part of the, when the municipal land use law, so when I say it later, I can just say MLUL for the record, safety is part of that. And coming into a covered area during the rain, having a safe place to go is a safety benefit. So we believe the C1 variance is very appropriate in this case for the front yard setback. Speaking to the side yard setbacks, well, the east side conforms, so I don't have to touch upon that. The west side, this side has been triggered because of the proposed garage and the rear addition. The existing building, we do acknowledge, did conform with existing setback requirements, but we are an undersized lot. Being the 110 versus the required 150, if we were proposing this house on a 150-foot lot, we would conform with the setbacks. You have
125.
I'm sorry, 125. Sorry, we would conform. Let me redo my math. Hold on. Yes. Yeah, we would still conform with the setbacks. I'm sorry, I just want to check my math on that. We ended up having this triggered. We had the enhanced side yard setback because of the building size being increased, and we went out the back. So while the square footage is being enhanced, the view from the street, as I explained earlier, from depending on which way you come from, it's not discernible that this addition is not putting on a massive house. That addition that was described out in the back, and it was sized appropriately for a decent sized family room, nothing exorbitant and nothing more functional, was placed based on the septic system. So, and then we held what would have been required 20-foot yard. So understanding that we do have the enhanced side yard setback, we are working with an undersized lot. And the smallest point is the 11.1 at the garage, but it does step back to the 20 feet. Speaking to the neighbor to the west, which was shown in some of the pictures, it's a 1-story garage on that side with a whole arborvitae row. We don't have a 2-story on, there's no bedrooms, there's not a bunch of windows, there's not living, and the space between the structures is, it's 40 feet existing, it'll be 30 feet, but between all the buffers and stuff, it's not you're not looking at a very small setback between 2 structures. You know, you're not having a big wall. The 2nd story does step back slightly. With our additional plantings and the change in grade, it won't seem like such a big addition and structure next to the neighbor, and as well as because it's a garage next door. So in my opinion, there's no negative impact to the neighbor, and it'll look more in conformance with the houses in the neighborhood. Driving around, there's a lot of 2-car garages. Part of the goal in planning in Wyckoff is to have a garage, and it's not uncommon to have 2-car. People have been moving up. They want the 1 and 2 car. They want to have a place to put their car, and it's part of it. It's appropriate. And when we looked at the neighborhood within 200 feet, everybody that was noticed, and you look at that 200-foot radius, 10 houses in that radius out of the 13 have 2-car garages, and 3 have, including our property, have 1 car. So by granting this variance, you're going to now conform more with the neighborhood. You're going to have 11 houses with 2-car garages and only 2 with the 1-car garage. As well as speaking to the setbacks, since I'm in that subject area, the rear addition, as explained, it's a modest sized living room. We had talked with the architect, we had worked with him and discussed the functionality and of not creating this massive area, but creating a normal functioning living room and getting it to work within the existing setback and the side yard requirements from the septic system. So working with all of those things combined, we feel that the C1 variance is very appropriate for this setback variance. Breath. Thank you.
So with that said, just to confirm, the C1 criteria has in part where there are unusual conditions or unusual configurations of a lot or area of the lot. And this basically, in this 3 parts here, am I correct in saying its lot area is deficient? It is the fact that the lot width is deficient, but then also that there is an unusual condition on the property. Not that a septic is unusual, but because of the location of the septic, that in part prompts where by code requirements, a rear yard family room structure can be located. Am I correct?
You are correct.
And in connection with the C2 criteria, it talks about where benefits will substantially outweigh detriments. In this instance, the concept of having the benefit of a second garage, so motor vehicles can be stored in a garage rather than sitting in a driveway. From a planning standpoint, I understand that to be something that is to be promoted and encouraged from a planning aspect. Am I correct in that?
Yes, you are.
And you've also stated that from the safety element, that's a benefit to have people ingress and egress and be undercover when they do that from weather elements. And that's the purpose, one of the purposes for the portico.
Yes.
And from a planning perspective and based on case law, aesthetics can also be considered as far as granting variance relief in the C2 criteria. Am I correct?
Yes.
And so from a streetscape standpoint, that's something that can be taken into consideration when looking at the C2 criteria.
Definitely, especially with the houses that are right around this area.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that's the submission I'm making there for that point. Yes.
Oh,
please
okay. I was like, I got to go to building coverage still.
Right. Yes. Okay. Now let's take the building coverage.
Okay. Building coverage required is 15%, and we are proposing 16.1%. Understanding we are requesting the variance, we feel the 1.1% is very de minimis considering the lot area, that if we didn't have the lot area deficiency, this house would conform and be way under what's required. Also speaking to the accessory structures, that our total building coverage is under by almost 4%. while the deck is considered an accessory structure because of its elevation above grade, there are no detached garages, there are no sheds, there's nothing else that's considered an accessory structure, that we still meet the building coverage requirement. We understand principal is 15, but overall building coverage we still meet. And with that also, we meet the impervious coverage requirement. And we are handling this additional coverage. So while we are asking for the variance because of the house size, we are handling that variance of impervious coverage with the drainage system and taking all of the roof leaders into a seepage pit, so there will be no adverse impact to the neighbors or the town's system. Part of this reason for the building coverage variance is because of the garage additions. Other homes have detached garages, and it might not have triggered this building coverage variance because you have that built into your accessory structure. Similar to what Mr. Whitaker had just said, the creation of the garages supports the positive planning, that it fits within the planning criteria and its storage of vehicles. So it's a substantial benefit for the streetscape and variance really for the C2, that I believe the garage, while it's the setback variance, is also built into the coverage variance because that is adding to the principal structure, but yet it is the garage, which is part of the C2, that's helping the streetscape. Similar to what was also said earlier, the lot is 2/3 of what's required. And so the building coverage would fit in it. So the hardship and variance relief for the C1 is appropriate in this case as well. Mr. Whitaker, do you have questions for me?
Do you see, based upon what we are proposing now, that there's any substantial detriment to the zone plan or zoning element based upon the proposal being made by the applicant?
Not at all.
And you base that opinion basically on the testimony you've already provided as it pertains to the C1 and C2 criteria?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes our direct presentation on that aspect.
Okay, I just had my little summary at the end. And from a planning perspective, the house is not overbuilt with respect to the lot area. While we have these variances, it does fit very well with the lot and the surrounding neighborhood, and the addition and what you can see and can't see. It's not going to be this exorbitant looking house, and it's modest. All of the rooms are a modest size. There's nothing exorbitant. It fits with this lot area. The house is being upgraded to more of a common style, especially on the street, and will enhance the streetscape in this neighborhood. And the house addition was designed to work with the setback constraints for the septic system, as well as appropriate for the 2-car garage. And I also noted earlier, I just had it down here too, about we will add landscaping around the AC units. So now I'm done.
Thank you. This concludes our direct presentation, Mr. Chairman.
He's muted.
I think he's muted.
Yep.
Thank you. I was trying not to be rude with rustling all the papers before.
Thank you.
All right, so a couple things that I just wanted to go over. So it's kind of rare that we have an application that actually creates a lot of variances. This happens to be one where the home as it exists is conforming in many ways. And by doing the addition, it's creating these problems. So that's one thing that we really have to get beyond. Starting with the portico, I don't think anyone would probably have an issue with that. So if there's anything we probably want to take off the table or discuss it real quick to see, you aren't making any further modifications to what's really there. You're essentially putting a 5-foot deep overhang over the top of essentially what's there now. Then it all applies, and now it counts right down to the front face of the lowest step. So that's how you're going down to the 32 and change from 40 being conforming. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Board members, anyone have an issue with the front portico?
I have none.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
All right. So we can get beyond that one. I think the sticking points for me, again, we've created a lot of these, And we really struggle with this whole enhanced side yard setback. Because at some point you scratch your head and you say, what are we really doing with it? Because so many applications come before us that trigger it. So unless it's a clean slate, which leads me to my next question. Unless it's a clean slate, we're seeing so many applications that are in an R825, you're exceeding the 3,700 gross building area, and then you're triggering it. And then we're looking at an application that's 11 feet off the property line, whereby triggering it, we're supposed to be further off the property line. So we're kind of going against what that whole theory was for the enhanced side yard setback. And the board does struggle with that, and we get it all the time now. One thing I would just like to get testimony on, I see the bold outline of what's proposed as new. Can we just get on the record? How much of this house will be standing post demo?
That would be my second witness. So, Mr. Kazani, yes.
Okay.
But
All right,
before,
so-
we'll hold that question for him.
Sure, no problem. One thing I did notice on A3, the setback requirement for the septic, did I hear you say that's 20 feet?
Yes.
20 feet. Is the existing addition in the back right now non-conforming?
No, I'm sorry. It's 20 feet if there's a basement. And so where there's a crawl space, it's, I believe it's 15. Mr. DeGenero.
Mr. DeGenero, confirm that. You're muted.
Yeah, it's 15 feet to a crawl space, and that's measured from the septic field, and it's 25 feet to a foundation with a basement.
Oh, there you go.
What's less than, I think what the chairman is seeing is a dimension to the septic tank, which is got to be a minimum of 10.
So is it identified clearly? Because I think what a couple of the sticking points will be, how do we have this condition that's okay now? And then how do we allow it to go to 11 feet, which I totally get it, trying to get away from a 1-car garage to a 2-car garage. And you know what, at first I probably looked at this application scratching my head like, why are they even bothering? In walking the site, it does make sense. I don't know that the impact will be, or the detriment will outweigh the benefit. And we do try to encourage, vehicles inside the garage to keep it nice and clean. We have 3 kids. You jam that garage up with a lot of things and you don't put the cars inside the garage, but you do need the storage. So that's one thing. But then I really want to drill down to, you're now extending off the back. And again, it's compounded because you have to be 25 feet off that side. And I see the effort you made. You went to 20. And I appreciate that, but what's the reason? And do you have like solid dimensions that you can identify from the tank or from the field where the absolute build line would end? And you understand what I'm getting at, and I'm sure you've done your due diligence. Why wouldn't that all be just shifted over to get it out of the setback?
Well, because we have the addition at the 20.8 feet from the septic. So are you questioning why it's not shifted over the 5 feet to be crawl space and then we meet the 25 on the other side?
So is it just crawl space underneath that part of the addition?
No, it's a basement.
No, there's a basement up until the 5 foot so that portion of the addition under the family room next to the stairs to the deck, that's 20.8 feet from the septic. So a portion in there will be crawl space up until you hit that 25-foot mark, and then you'll have basement.
So where I'm seeing the back right corner of the proposed addition at 20.8 feet, there won't be basement foundation below that?
No, because you can't. It'll be crawl space. It'll be crawl space for a portion. So when you're in the basement, I have this in my house. So I have some basement and then I have a little area that's a crawl space that steps up. So they're going to have basement downstairs and then for a 5-foot area along that wall will be crawl space because that's what's allowed because of the setback. So they have to be 25 feet to have basement, which is what they're doing.
25, so 25 feet for basement. Was it 15 feet for crawl space?
Right. And they're at 20, so they're okay with that. So they'll have the little bit of crawl space. So factoring in the want and the design for the basement didn't lead us to shift the house over away from the setback at all. They're kind of like backed into that area coming from our 2 setbacks. So we held the 20 feet, which is obviously the original required before the enhanced setback, which we thought was important, not to encroach more than that. We held that line.
Could the house itself shift, the addition shift over to the right 5 more feet to get 15 feet off the septic system and have crawl space underneath it?
That would be a discussion with the architect and the homeowner because they'd be losing their basement space.
So those are a couple of comments. And as far as space, listen, the reality to it is it's a wonderful plan. I'll never knock the plan. That's for sure. And I totally see what the end result is. And the impact, I think, of the garage, I think we'll have some discussion on that and maybe the roof above it. But another thing that we kind of struggle with, and I went through it myself going through construction, you start out with a lot of square feet and you try to find ways to scale it back, and then you look at the taxes you're going to be paying, so you try to scale it back. You think you did the best job, you build it and you're like, I don't want so much square feet. And now I'm looking at it, and if we're looking for space, the hard part for me is on the first floor, we then have the addition off the back, which is beautiful. You have a modern kitchen, wide open, with a breakfast area, with the dining room, with the living room, with an office, and with another playroom / homework room. So for me, I'm kind of struggling with, we're getting a lot out of this. There's a lot going on. You've got all the space you need. So to hear you might lose some space in the basement, that might be a little difficult to accept. You have a lot of other rooms that are space in this house. You're going to end up with a lot of square footage in this house. It's going up considerably from what's existing. And to lose a little bit for a basement, but still have all these other areas. Listen, people would love to have this kind of space, period. Never mind have a playroom, office, basement, and everything else on top. So just some things I wanted to kind of point out. But my real question was, in looking at the original design that's there, the current addition, I guess it was, off the back of the house, you answered the question. It's crawl space, which is why it's closer. And I think crawl space might be the solution to get that shifted over a little bit. Again, it's just my opinion. This is an undersized lot, not by a ton. You still have 110 foot width, which is, in some areas, that's fantastic. It is undersized. I understand why you're deeming this as a C1 and a C2. However, I think there might have been some things that we could consider to possibly eliminate some of these. I'd really like to see, and again, we're at 8.8 principal building coverage. We're almost doubling that to go to 16.1. So we've added another variance because of the mass, because of the size of what we're building. So I think we're asking for a lot. I think it's a wonderful design. This is just my perspective on it, my thoughts in looking at it. Just some preliminary comments, but certainly board members, I'll open it up to you guys. Whatever comments you might have, please, by all means. Or none.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the plans over and over, and I understand the benefit of a 2-car garage. At first I'm looking at it going, leave the one-car garage, put a detached garage in the back. I understand you're not gonna have enough depth to do that. I mean, the one comment I have, I know you're not gonna wanna hear it, but if you got rid of the mudroom and you pulled the garage over, now I know that whole thing starts messing with the basement and having to redo the footing in the basement, putting up a wall. I get all that, but to me, I don't see this going at 11 feet. So if you want the 2-car garage, you may have to reconfigure what that layout looks like on the first floor. Again, I know it's not ideal. I know it's a lot of work, but it can be done.
With that setback on the side, does it make a difference? Does the 11 feet kind of almost optical illusion a little bit because the house is above them next door? With the arborvitaes and the garage and everything right there, it's kind of raised. So would
Well,
that 11 feet almost
that was
look
one of the
bigger?
things I stated earlier, that the topographic conditions can be considered when granting variance relief, and that's what you have in this particular instance.
Just wondering if it makes it look, you know what I mean?
It won't seem
Okay.
as, because they're not at the same level and the property next door is higher, while you're still granting the setback, it just won't seem as drastic because it's not going to be as high. You're not like creating a towering building next to one. It's set lower. So it will, like you said, an optical illusion between all the plants and stuff, it won't actually seem like it's 11 feet. And, you know, driving through the neighborhood, I mean, not having to give specific addresses to every lot that I looked at and did some measurements on. I mean, there are a lot that are within the setback that you can't really tell. You look at it and it seems fine. And then I walk up and do some measurements and I'm like, oh, that's actually a lot closer than what you think it is. That there is that way that the perspective of it doesn't actually seem as planimetric as a piece of paper that I give dimensions on.
I would kind of concur with that a little bit. Is one of the things, you know, it's always interesting. You look at a set of plans and you say, well, you know, 10 feet, 11 feet, no way, that's not going to happen. And then you go to the property and, you know, it's more than just an optical illusion. Standing there, because the property is pitched so much, and kind of walking off the distance a little bit, and it's beyond, you know, you could feel that it doesn't look that close. And, you know, when you stand there at at the applicant's property and you look over, their first story is, you know, if the house next door was 2 stories, the second story would be at the level of the first story of the other home. So that definitely, you know, that definitely goes a distance a little bit, you know.
And another comment just to add on to that, that I forgot to mention earlier, which from what I understand, I know a bunch, or if all the board members went out to the site, and as you can see in the plans, is the driveway widens out and then it cuts in at a 90 to meet the garage. And from what I understand, and if the person is able to speak to it, the original builder that built this house, the intent was for a 2-car, and it didn't happen at the time. But where the second car garage is, they don't have to do anything with their driveway because it's like their driveway was actually built for that to happen. That the drastic change on the lot, it's not this massive change looking because it's like the driveway was already built for it, for the 2-car. It's meeting that width exactly as what's needed.
All right, it's 10:54, so I just want to, I would like to at least hear from the board, any comments, questions, concerns. So hopefully it can be as constructive as possible. And we're absolutely going to have to, I would think, carry the application. We won't be able to get through everything. I don't believe, unless nobody else has any comments. And it's silence and the neighbors don't have anything to say. But at this point, do any other board members have any other comments, anything that they want to add to that?
Just for Ms. Osterkorn, I just want to make sure I'm not confused and that the board is crystal clear. Going back to what Chairman Fry was talking about regarding the rear of the proposed addition, I got very confused when you said full basement versus crawl space. And structurally, from an engineering perspective, there's still 5 feet if it's a crawl space to move the back addition to the right. Is that a true statement?
If you move the back addition 5 feet to the right, then you'd be creating closer to 10 feet of crawl space in the basement.
See, that's where you start losing me.
Okay, so from the field, we have a dimension of 20.8 feet.
Correct.
It's required to have a full basement, it has to be 25 feet.
Correct.
So while the outside of the building is 20.8, when you get inside, you'd have about 5 feet of crawl space, and then the rest of the building footprint would be basement. So it'd step down, you'd build the foundation. I mean, I have it in, so you have a portion that's crawl space, and then the foundation's built and it's excavated further down, so you have a full basement. So as long as the inside basement wall is 25 feet to the field, you're okay. So they'd put a portion of that addition as crawl space because it can't be full basement.
I understand. Okay, so you're saying, understood.
So if we shift the house, they'd be creating more crawl space and less basement.
Correct. Okay, I understand. But it's, okay, so it's definitely possible. Understood. And maybe I would ask the applicant, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but if we could get a basement floor plan, since I don't think it's part of the architecturals currently, but since there's such a key piece of this is related to the basement layout, I think we just go right to the first floor and second floor. I don't think we get a basement on the architecturals. If they are revised, or maybe they could just add that in to the next meeting for next month.
The existing house is not slab on grade, correct?
Bruce, you're muted.
2 things. I'd like you, as just between now and the next meeting, you have the photographs that have been marked as part of the whole exhibit that we submitted. I think it's very important if you look at visually where this garage will be, the second garage, and look at that in comparison to the house next door, where it is basically is at the end of where the driveway currently exists. So when you look at it, I think that's a good visual to look at. You've got a second photo also that
Yes.
shows it from the perspective of the next door neighbor. That's why we submitted those photographs. So that's one thing to consider. I know we have neighbors also that are that wanted to comment. I would assume, Mr. Chairman, we're going to have to carry the neighbors until the next meeting also. And we would, at this point, look at the plans and take your comments into consideration and perhaps come back with some revisions.
Yeah, like the last couple of minutes, just so you have direction, and I think you've kind of heard some of the board's concerns. Are there any other board members that want to add anything else so that that the applicant has a fair shot at least addressing some things for the next meeting?
Mr. Chair, I think it'd be wise to open to the public to see, because that could change the whole thing next meeting if we don't hear the neighbors' comments, right?
I think that would be good. It would help us so that we wouldn't go to a third meeting. Yes.
Okay.
Well, and then along those lines, not to make this go any later, but we're all going to focus in on this left side, and we haven't talked or addressed the architecturals at all from a left side perspective. So I don't know if we want to do 5 minutes on the left side with the architect, just to get ideas out there from the board from a architectural perspective, whether it be the first floor, second floor, or the the rear addition.
If the board would indulge us, I can put Chris on now just to comment on those things.
It's up to the chairman.
I'll tell you what, I think that discussion's going to probably take longer than 5 minutes.
All right, fair enough.
So, I think we'll just get carried away, and I certainly appreciate all the neighbors and anyone else that called in, and the patience that they have. We could, what I'll do is, in fairness to them, I'll take a couple minutes, and so far, anything that we've had testimony on, we can have someone from the public share their comments, and that might help the decision as well. So Maureen, right now, do you have everyone on mute?
Is her on mute?
She's on mute.
She's on.
My computer just froze.
Oh, okay. All right, so I see we have, in all fairness, we have a couple of people that have hung in there throughout. So why don't we take one by one, try to make it streamlined to the point, but certainly we want to hear comments or concerns that you might have.
So Brian is on this, Brian's name is on the screen. He's unmuted.
Hi, everybody. This is Brian Saxton.
Brian, this is the attorney Dave Becker. Can you raise your right hand so I can swear you in? You swear affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Again, just state your name, spelling your last name, and your address for the record.
Sure. Brian Saxton, Saxton, 270 Demarest Avenue, Wyckoff, New Jersey.
Thank you.
So we would be looking at the Canzani's addition and renovation from the perspective of our rear and side yard to their rear yard. We've reviewed the plans and have absolutely no objections. It is an upgrade to the neighborhood, and this addition and renovation fits within the character of the neighborhood and enhances the charm of the neighborhood even more. So we welcome this.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Saxon.
Also, if I could add, Kirsten made a note. We used to live at 177 Van Houten Avenue. So we loved the home. That was our first home in town. And we were the family that, you talk about the aesthetics with the driveway and the widening of the driveway. And it was our intention to make that a two-car driveway. We inevitably never went down the road of a renovation because an opportunity in the same neighborhood happened as we were thinking about starting those plans. So, but that was our intention, and everything that the experts have talked about the topography of the neighborhood. Although I am no expert in anything to do with topography, they are completely accurate in that this home will fit in and look great.
Okay. Thank you again. Okay. Michael Bett.
If I may, Michael's actually the architect. I'm the attorney on the next application.
Oh, okay.
He was our witness.
Gotcha.
There are 3 other attendees on the list. David Ware.
Hi, guys. I don't know if you can hear me yet.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, guys. Thank you to the board for having me for a couple minutes here, and I'm glad I hung in this entire time. I actually went through this process just about a year ago. I live on Sunset.
If I can interrupt you, let me swear you in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
If you could again state your name, spelling your last name for the record, and give us your address, please.
David Ware, W-A-R-E, 290 Sunset Boulevard.
Thank you.
As I was saying, I appreciate you guys just giving me a few quick minutes. I live on Sunset Boulevard. The perspective towards the Canzani's house would be looking down Sunset straight at their house. I've heard the talk about the 2-car garage. I would be staring right at it. So I have one of the best perspectives about that. And I have to say that I agree completely with their plans. I would have no objections. In fact, I think it's exactly what the neighborhood and what the house calls for. It's perfect for them. We just went through this procedure ourselves. It's exactly what the Knowles needs at this time, is to take some of these older homes and update them to fit, more accordingly to the time. So appreciate your time, and I just wanted to get that out there.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ware.
You're welcome.
Okay, next.
Ryan Barry. I live at, last name is spelled Barry. Address is 191 Van Houten Avenue. And my property is the property that's been referenced directly to the left of the Canzanis. So as it relates to the side yard setback, my property,
If I could swear you in, Mr. Crab,
Sorry.
apologize. Raise your right hand, please. You swear or
Yes.
affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
yes, I do.
Thank you. I know you already gave your name and your address, so you can proceed. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So in reference to the side yard setback, my property would be the one most affected. Having said that, I have absolutely no objection to the variance that they're requesting. We've reviewed the plans with the Canzanis. We agree fully with them, and we hope that you vote in favor of them. And I think that what they're doing is certainly an upgrade to our neighborhood. And, we don't see what they're doing as anything out of character with the other homes that are in the neighborhood. So we're in strong support of the 2-car garage. And I see no obsolescence for my property in terms of what they're planning.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barry.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
I think that's everybody.
Okay. All right, we'll close to the public. All right. So we'll carry the application to the July 16th meeting. I think that's real quick. The portico doesn't seem like it's an issue, so we don't have to spend too much time on that, I don't think. You should probably analyze the options with the basement. I do agree. I'd like to see a full basement plan. If it's not slab on grade, then there's basement there already. So we have to look at this in its entirety and see what the basement looks like, and then what you're proposing with the
The easiest solution, just take some of the basement back.
Yeah.
They have.
David,
They might.
What was that?
no, David's on. David, you have to mute.
Oh. Ms. Mitchell, can we mute?
There you go. He hung up.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That left-hand side, again, I think that's another point that we want to take a look at. And I know we didn't get to the architect. I think if we get into that, we're going to be here a lot longer. So we will table it for now. But I think you have some direction to go on. There's a lot going on in the application. And I think that next time we meet, you'll hopefully have some different direction for us, because the board has some concerns.
Understood. I've taken notes and I understand what your concerns are, and we will review this and we'll address them at your July 16th meeting.
Okay.
On that note, for notice purposes, for the public and the applicant, Mr. Whitaker, since being carried, you don't need to re-notice as long as it's a virtual meeting. I surmise it will be, but we'll have to make that decision really fast. But I think, in all honesty, I think that's what it's probably going to be in July. So you would not need to re-notice. If for some reason it went in person, you would have to re-notice, but I don't foresee that right now, but I'll let you know.
Yeah,
As soon as
just
possible.
for the board's edification, in the old days, we used to be able to put a notice in the record about 13 or 14 days before a hearing, but because they're inundated with so many virtual notices, we're using in my office now, trying to do it 20 days in advance to get it published. So
Right.
we will need to know by the end of the month.
I will try to give you an answer as ASAP. But I surmise you're not gonna have to re-notice again.
Okay. Good to see everyone. Have a nice evening.
You as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. So we got through a couple. There's a little bit of homework left, moving forward. I apologize if the last applicant's still on.
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes. I'm
you're,
actually Doreen Nguyen. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Mr. Gata. Amanda is his wife. She had
Okay.
filed the application before I became involved, so it was under her name.
gotcha. Okay. Were you able to, you can always go back to YouTube and see the beginning if you didn't catch the work session.
We actually did listen to the work session and to the comments.
Okay.
So I just want to confirm, no renoticing unless it changes again, and
Yes, no, we're announcing that your application is being adjourned. Will not to renotice unless we go in person. I don't see that happening, but I'll try to give an answer ASAP, as I said to Mr. Whitaker as well, because I can appreciate, one, the timing that needs involved and also additional costs. But I foresee that we're going to do a virtual in July, based upon everything I'm hearing, but I will let you know as soon as possible.
that's appreciated. And I imagine we would then be third on the agenda in July after the one that
That's
was,
correct.
two that were put off?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Appreciate you hanging in. Sorry we couldn't get through everybody, but we stay as long as we can, and then you have to finally cut it off. But we'll get to you next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, board, good night. All right, board, anything else to discuss? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 We'll move.
Reminder, please hold on to the plans for anything that was approved so that I can retrieve some of those back from you people.
Will you let us know if you need them and
I
where to
will.
drop them off?
I
Okay.
will.
Would it be, is town hall open in any capacity where people could drop off the drawings? Because you can't wait too long.
Yeah, I mean, we're not open to the public, but there's a bin for the building department outside the right ramp entrance. And also, if I know you're coming by, I can meet you at the side door. I think I'm gonna get my own bin to put outside, so I will let you know.
Okay. All right, shoot out an email. We'll look forward and hopefully we can get those off the table pretty soon.
Okay.
Okay. All right, everyone. Glad